Good morning, we're at the Stade Charlotte in South Paris for the 2023 Para-Athletics World Championships. It's been far too long, 4 years since the last one, the 10th edition of these World Championships. 1,130 athletes across the 10 days, 107 nations represented in the French capital across 171 medal events. It is a beautiful stadium, 100,000 tickets have been sold already between now and next Monday across the 9 days of competition. Spectacular opening ceremony last night with the French #1 DJ Feder, and the crowd's anticipating what should be a spectacular week. 9 a.m. start it is, by the way, to avoid the heat and maybe the Tour de France as well. A very good morning from Will Downing, my long-standing colleague Tulson Tollett, the long-standing long jump champion Steph Reed. It's overcast today, that's quite welcome, so it's 10 degrees lower than it was at this time yesterday. It's a nice calm day, which is very welcome. We've got 11 titles down for decision today. 4 of them this morning, and they are all in the field. And good morning to Tulson Tollett.
Good morning, Will. Good morning, Steph. Yes, it's going to be a very, very interesting morning. Conditions are quite good. Women's discus throw F55 gets us underway. That'll have the back-to-back Paralympic champion Dong Fei-shi of China. Then we have the women's long jump, T11. That is going to be something to look out for. Brazil's Silvania Costa in her first World Championships in 8 years. The women's shot put F41. We know who to look out for in that one. It's Sarah Tilili of Tunisia, the 6-time Paralympic, 8-time World Championship gold medalist. And the men's javelin throw, F38 to round things off. That'll be Colombia's Jose Gregorio Lemos, the Paralympic champion, world record holder, making his World Championship debut here. And we also have some track events to take care of as well.
So lots to look forward to. We have both men's and women's F11 long jump in this opening day. The women's final is in the evening session. Those evening sessions are getting underway at 6:30. Central European summertime. This the field for the women's T11 long jump final, including Zhao Guoha of China. We've got, by the way, 90 minutes of field events heaven this morning before the first track event, so don't talk to me about the field events being ignored. It never happens in para-athletics. But a strong field of 8 in that. China, France, Brazil, Argentina, Uzbekistan, Spain and Italy represented. Ayola Dedai, the regular European medalist. Remember, T11, that is complete visual impairment. The athletes are totally blind. T12s, that is the medium level of visual impairment, so that's up to about 5% vision. And then T13, that is the category of least visual impairment, where it is up to 20% of vision.
And we will do our best, of course, to bring you fully up to speed. If you're new to parasport on what the classifications are, you can go to paralympic.org and also find out more information there. Someone who knows about the long jump is Steph Reed, who is next to us now, who's a gold medalist in 2017 in London. And what will the athletes be going through at the moment?
Oh, good morning, Tulson. Good morning, Will. This really is the calm before the storm, and especially in the long jump, one of the most important things is to set up your runway, as we can see is happening right now. And what you may not have seen before, at the moment, the guide is clapping. And as you can see there, the athlete was making the adjustment as she listened for the sound. I mean, this is possibly one of the scariest events to do, because you are completely reliant on your guide so that you know where you're going, and you have to run at top speed and hope that you make it into the pit. You're putting all your power and your effort into this. And this is also an event that requires a lot of, well, shall we say, cooperation from the audience. So often you'll see the audience, they're desperate to start cheering the athlete on, but they need complete silence so the athlete can hear the guide.
That's an interesting one, because the women's event taking place this morning, and in the evening session we've got Lex Gillette, the multiple world champion in the men's long jump T11, and back in Doha in 2015 he actually went off the track and finished off the edge of the pit because it was so far off that his guide had sort of misdirected him. Didn't pick up an injury that was really bad, but that's one of those times when you can see how difficult these events are.
You're right. In many ways, the athletes make it look really easy, and that was probably one of the moments where we got a glimpse into actually how dangerous this event can be. I mean, he landed hard, not in the sand, but on one of the metal grates, and yet he still got up and he finished the competition. I believe he won it too, didn't he?
He won it. He's had lots of luck when it comes to world championships, has Lex Gillette. He just hasn't had a great deal of luck when it comes to Paralympic Games. Perhaps that may change if he competes next year. We shall see, but we're about to get underway in this event.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all lined up with the guides, and as you can see in this event, the guide will make some sort of noise, usually clapping for the athlete to follow. They'll each have their own slightly different method and sound of doing it, but normally the clapping will get louder and a lot more frenetic the closer that they get towards the mark. And because it is complete visual impairment, it is a very wide takeoff pad, and they will be measured from the actual takeoff point to where they land, which is different to the IAAF circuit. So they've all been practice goes. Everybody's going to be introduced to us now, starting with Zhu Guha, who's very well watchable in this. Ayola Deadeye has had an absolutely tremendous career as well for Italy in terms of European competitions.
Yeah, Zhu, who's the reigning champion in this one, having taken gold in 2019. She won gold in the 100 and 200 in 2017 as well. So she's certainly going to be one of the favourites. France's local favourite, Delia Bouloglem, season best and personal best of 4.5 metres exactly. Big cheer for her, as you would expect. Then Brazil, Silvania Costa, who lines up third, gold in 2015, 2016, and the reigning Paralympic champion. We have the world champion and the Paralympic champion up against each other here in Zhu and Silvania Costa. Rosario Coppola of Argentina. She'll go fourth, season best of 4 exactly, lifetime best of 4:46. Lorena Salvatini of Brazil won gold back in 2013 in Lyon. Lifetime best of 5 metres exactly. She also, Costa, her compatriot, is the world record and championship record holder. Uzbekistan's Asila Mirzayeva, silver medalist in Tokyo in 2020. Lifetime best of 4:99, just short of that 5 metres which she jumped this year. Alba Garcia Flanagan of Spain, 4:67, her lifetime best also from this year. So season best and lifetime best this year. And a lady who needs no introduction, gold medalist in London back in 2017, Ayola Deadeye of Italy will be there or thereabouts as well. So we have the reigning world champion Zhu of China, and we also have the Paralympic champion Silvania Costa of Brazil. So this promises to be, Steph, an event which really gets us off on a good footing.
What a great one to start off with. And actually, I love what the women have been doing with their eye coverings recently. They really are becoming a fashion statement. And actually, one of the competitors had a note written across, but a language I couldn't understand. But it's also important to realize those coverings are heavily regulated, and they are checked by technical officials. The rule is that they are not allowed to have any sort of visual cues apart from the sound of their guides. So those coverings are checked to make sure they match regulations and that no light, no sorts of visual cue can get through those coverings.
One of Brazil's finest ever champions, Teresina Guilhermina, who was one of the first to really make those eye coverings look like a fashion statement as such, and it really got people, it's a talking point. It gets people involved in the sport as well, not just the jumping, but it also gets that fashion point involved, and in these days of social media, it's a great thing to have.
Yeah, and I say, why not? I think so often people have been trained, you don't look at disability, you don't stare. Whereas now we're seeing with these eye coverings, with prostheses, yeah, they're really cool. They're a fashion option. You should stare at it.
Well, Didai's eyes looked like mine this morning when I got up because I hadn't had enough sleep. So perhaps it's a sign for what's coming up in these championships. Something big is building.
I should tell you there are 4 field event finals this morning, which we'll be keeping an eye on for you. The women's discus F55, that's seated discus throw, the women's shot put F41, athletes of short stature, and the men's javelin F38. And that is the strongest, if you like, of the coordination impairment athletes. A reminder, a brief primer, event by event, of what the numbers mean if you are brand new to the sport, obviously growing all the time. And if you're knocking around Western Europe, it is €10 per ticket. Not all sessions are sold out. And there's also live television coverage in France on L'Equipe TV.
And there is the lady who is the world record and championship record holder, Silvania Costa of Brazil, setting that championship record back in Doha in 2015, the world record. You may remember in her home country in Sao Paulo in 2016.
It'll be an exciting moment for her, for Slovenia, because this is her first World Championships in 8 years. And actually, we can see her world record is 5 meters 46. At the moment, her season's best is 4 meters 70. So she is a way off from that world record at the moment. But when you've taken some time out from the sport, as we need to do sometimes as athletes, it does take a few competitions to get back into the swing of things. And I'm looking forward to seeing what her return will be like.
How do you mentally adjust to coming back?
It's really difficult, because I think what you find as well as an athlete, you're growing, and an approach that worked when you were 18 doesn't necessarily work when you are 30, because your life has changed. Maybe you have more responsibility, or maybe you've got a family now, and so sometimes you'll find you'll have to relearn and do a completely new process.
Well, we're about to get underway, and here comes the first jumper of China, Zhu Guo'er.
Yep, the reigning world champion from 4 years ago. Silver in the universal relay as well, Zhu Guo'er. And there she goes straight away. Now, those side markings, normally you'd be saying, well, that's about 5.5 meters. But remember, they're measuring from where they take off. It's a much larger area they take off from, which is measured out in chalk. So there are 2 measurements to do. Obviously, the plasticine is there. There's no lasers or vertical planes here.
Solid first. Up jump as well.
It's given that a really solid go. 5:46 last night. Very, very spectacular. Well, I can tell you that that was 4 meters 82. Delia Bulaglem is going to see The second attempt.
In that 1 meter chalked area that they can measure from, then the jump is valid. In this instance, it looks like they're having a little bit of a discussion over that jump and where they'll measure it from.
Now, so long as she's just scraped that chalk, she's okay. If she misses the chalk, then we've seen in previous championships that would be a red flag. I think they're going to give her the benefit of the doubt for now. No, they haven't. She did not take off in the chalk, and that, even though it has been measured, that is a red flag. It's come up as a big red X against it.
Now
so it's as you are.
Yes, in the event that a guide can see an athlete is going too far off course, sometimes they will abort the jump, and if they have enough time, they'll take it again. But there's so much the guide is responsible for these athletes. It's a huge job for them.
So Bouligam just missed out in the chalk, so she misses out an attempt in this opening round. But that judge right by the pit did give a white flag at first. Sylvania Costa then, the Paralympic champion from Tokyo and Rio. Belting through, but she's made an indentation right in the sand straight away, and that'll be a red flag. And that's no mark for the world record holder.
It's the opening round. Sometimes it takes, whether you have sight or not, sometimes it takes a few goes to get your runway right. And in that instance, it looks like she was expecting to have an extra step. And so what she'll do now is she'll go back with her guide and her coach. They can adjust their mark at the start to give her a little bit more room. But that is, the athletes will get six goes. So your first one can be used to set her, but the second round for her is going to be really important.
Yeah, gold in the last two Paralympic Games. Gold in the World Championships in 2015. She's missed the last couple of Worlds, but not the Worlds. Rosaria Coppola from Argentina next to go. They've got an improving team, an ever-growing team. That's an improving effort from the Argentine. The 19-year-old, she'll have turned 20 by the time the Pan Am Games are on in Santiago later this year. Do you mean the CIS? I don't know. Is it on the right event? Because mine was on the wrong one. Well, she's given that a really good whirl, I have to say. Coppola will put her into the medals for now. 482 is the only successful mark to date for Zhou Guha. And misses for Bouligam and Costa. Am I right in saying no results have come up on screen yet on television? No, they haven't. So Zhou, our leader. She's just veering off course a little bit to the left, but hey, there was chalk dust, as John McEnroe always used to say, so that's good news for her. And that's 3.73, and she goes into the silver medal position.
That's a great shot there. You can almost see the chalk coming off as smoke. But I actually thought that was a very mature way to deal with. She was definitely going off course and just managed to correct herself. But you also have to bear in mind those small corrections, they do cause a deceleration as you're coming into the board, and long jump is all about building as much speed as you can on the runway and then converting it into vertical distance. And she's smiling there. She'll be able to take that back and really work on keeping that runway straight for the next round.
So next up it is Lorena Salvatini from Brazil. And again, chalk dust and flying sand, and that's all good news for her. She finished fourth, just outside the medals in Tokyo in the 2021 Paralympic Games. Decent effort, well guided, and that'll put her on the board and into the top three in terms of the marks so far. 482 for Zhou.
Can I ask someone a question about my CIS here? If something's not working, please.
This is a great slow motion shot of her in the air. And one of the most difficult things as a visually impaired athlete is knowing when to prepare your landing. You have no visual cues as to where the sand pit is, and the amount of body awareness required and just going over the motions repeatedly and really getting that rhythm in your body. The work and the effort and the coaching that's gone into this is really quite spectacular.
Yeah, Salvatini finished 10th in the last World Championships for the long jump, but 4th in Tokyo. And right now she's second, a season's best, 471 for Lorena Salvatini of Brazil. So now for Uzbekistan, Asilia Mizatyrova. I think she took off just before the chalk, so it'll be measured from the furthest tip away. Strong chance that she's got ahead of Coppola there and maybe into the 4-meter mark. But obviously every long jump event we're going to see over the week will be slightly different. There'll be slightly different impairment for everybody, and it's like you were saying, there's just a whole load of total faith in the guide, Steph, and in your own ability to keep it on the straight and narrow.
That jump was, you're right, that jump was quite impressive. You can see she gets real flight on takeoff and beautiful, beautiful leg shoot and landed really, really well balanced. That is an athlete and coach pairing who has, really, really worked and honed that technique. I mean, the timing of her leg shoot there, you can see the flick of her ankles just before she hits the sand. That is
Why wouldn't she be?
just measure from the board farthest back. I mean, she's clearly losing over a meter and a half there. She did very well to make the pit. I think in that case, it's just the runway, but not every can jump. It's actually really interesting. We've now gone through round. you were having to count in your head, and it's very understandable. You might get some of this mixed up, and it almost looked like she was expecting to take off and she could stand with that, but she had a bit of a conversation with.
For a better move up this time. Those are the scores on the doors. Her second round attempt coming. Mirza Yarova. What a start for Uzbekistan.
And why it's really important to get a mark in is because it actually gives the coach information.
She was happy about the fact that she got a mark, or unhappy with the fact that she got a little bit longer to measure these marks. 4:59. So it puts her up into fourth position.
the audience thought.
She went quite long then with her run up. I think from the naked eye you can see that she's actually has fouled. It's given the red flag, so no improvement. She stays in third position.
Pakistan, the silver medalist in the Paralympic Games in Tokyo 2 years ago, Mirzayourova, by 1 centimetre, a new lifetime best in the opening round. She's in gold medal winning form here. Another 5-metre one. It's another 5-metre one. Magnificent. And now it is a red flag. It's not the start she wanted, but it's 8 in the final. She'll get all 6 attempts, but it's been a frenetic start for her, not 5:08 with that new championship record.
Mirzayourova has really laid it down and put pressure on the field, and I think the rest of the field is really feeling that at the moment.
Deadeye has not improved. That's 4:51, and she stays in 5th position.
world record. Mazzy River in the lead. Championship record of 5:08. Zhu of China.
And that's, again, one of the unique things about helping athletes with visual impairments learn.
It's a first love for Bula Glen, fourth in the Europeans in Bydgoszcz. 2 years.
I'm always amazed with the mentality of how you score. She's also the world record holder. She's currently in fourth position. 4:59 with her second jump. This, her third.
at the beginning. I think that second round jump really gave her confidence. I mean, she was there. Well, it does, but actually her at the beginning. I think that second round jump really gave her confidence. I mean, she was there.
Got into her stride really well. It's another nice effort. It's around the same range she's been already. She was celebrating a lot after her second round attempt. Maybe not so much this time, but she set a standard for the rest and for her to match, and leading by a good amount so far.
That's actually, I think it's quite hard to come back and compose yourself after you have done a personal record, because you're excited and yet the competition isn't done yet, and there are still definitely a few women within range of striking distance. But what I really like about Moroziova is just it's the consistency of her runway. It is quite unique. She throws in this bounding stride 3 times and then carries on, but it's working for her.
The first 2 5-meter attempts of her career, and it's a nice calm morning as well, so lifetime best all the way. That's a decent one too, 4.97. Even that in its own right would have been the lead for Moroziova. She is flying right now. Alba Garcia in 8th spot. Missed out this event in Bydgoszcz. It's worth pointing out she's still only 19. We've seen quite a bit of her in major championships the past few years, but she was really young when she made her championship debut around 15 or 16. And this is where a bit of additional resolve is required. Her first 2 marks have been quite disappointing. Her third one is a lot more like it.
That run looked much better from Garcia Faligan, and what I liked as well, she had lots and lots of speed coming in. Just a few strides out before her takeoff, there was a little bit of a slowdown, perhaps a little bit of an adjustment as she's listening to her coach and making sure she's in the right position. But that was just a great, solid overall jump. Great technique in the air, nice and compact and efficient. I would love to see just a little bit more of a leg shoot there. But again, as you said, she's young and she's still learning the event, and especially when you can't see the pit, it requires a lot of body awareness to work out when to really stretch those legs out.
It's going to move her up the table. Her regular coach up in the stands with the advice. Oh my word! 482, and she goes up into the bronze medal position on Canback. She's matched Xu Guhao, the reigning champion. But Guhao 477 in round 3, leads on Canback very impressively.
And that is the great thing about long jump. I mean, the positions can change at any moment in the rounds.
And one more attempt to come in round 3. Ayola Deadeye, the bronze in the long jump in 2 of the last 3 European Championships. Oh, she's got that one well. Bronze in Grosseto in 2016, bronze in Bydgoszcz 2 years ago, silver in the long jump in Swansea in 2014, and the 200 meters as well. She's been part of a great Italian para-athletics couple with Emanuela De Marino, originally from Albania. You probably know the story, relocated to Italy when very young and trying to relocate herself into the medals again here.
That was, she had to work hard on that runway. There were a lot of adjustments right to left. Again, I feel like it's really taken away from her speed, and it's not quite showcasing what a great jumper she is.
4:48, and she is in 6th position. Our leader from Uzbekistan, Moroziova, 5 meters 08, a new championship record as we reach halfway.
It's a good shot of her there. You can see she's sitting there. She's looking very calm and collected in the background, just gathering herself, not wasting any energy. Actually, you can see her fingers going just a little bit there. Sometimes that is one of the tells. I'm sure she's just rehearsing in her head. But she knows she's not done yet. She's jumped very, very well, but there still are some women within striking distance, and there are 3 more rounds to go.
4 medal events on this opening morning as well. Apart from the women's long jump T11, which we're seeing here, we've got the women's discus throw F55, the women's shot put F41, and the men's javelin throw F38. So plenty to look forward to. 11 golds to be handed out on this opening day of competition. Vigo and Luda. We saw Luda a moment ago, didn't we, when it was Didi who produced a decent jump. A few dance moves coming into it as well. But the kids here, and I suspect some of the adults, will be more than happy to have their picture taken with Luda and Vigo.
Well, that's our task for the week then.
I know it's yours at every championships. Don't try and deny it. Well, the Mexican wave. We can tell we've got a lull in proceedings because the Mexican wave started. Courtesy of Luda and Vigo. Here we go. So as we just wait for the positioning as we head into the final 3 jumps of the women's long jump T11. The mascots come to the fore. Get the crowd going. And we're just about to proceed further into the women's long jump T11. First event we've seen, and it's a championship record in the opening event of the morning. Long may it continue for the rest of these championships. Much cooler morning than it has been for the last couple of days. 33 degrees Celsius yesterday. Only a high of 27 or so. It's around 23 at the moment. No breeze to speak of. Good cloud cover as we head into round 4. So Coppola of Argentina goes in first position, having finished 8th after the opening 3 jumps. I don't think that's going to really improve on her best so far of 388. She has improved as she's gone along, 373, 380, 388. But it's quite a distance off the leaders at the moment.
Excellent agility there by the guide, just making sure he got out of the way at the last moment.
Have you ever seen a guide actually get clipped by someone as they've gone into the pit? Have you ever seen anything like that? It's quite a dangerous thing because you've got to be very careful about when you actually do move.
Yeah, I mean, you want to stay as long as possible because you want to give them a visual sound to aim for, but equally you don't want to get that wrong. Do you know what? I haven't seen it, but I imagine it probably has happened.
I suspect a spike in the leg might not be that nice.
Probably in training.
So just talk us through this.
Well, you can see this coach he's yelling and he's also counting, and you just see he's very quick. I mean, it was close, but it's important to remember that the guides are a huge, huge part of the training of the athletes for which they're acting as their eyes.
Absolutely, and we will see in those running events on the track as we go through the competition that the guides have to have not only the help of the athletes when they run, but they've also got to have the ability as well because they have to run at a decent pace as well. So we will see that as we move through these championships in the T11, T12 categories. So Boulaglem of France, a foul. Her third jump, 4:38, putting her in 7th position. And she heads in for number 4. Well, that one was way back. Didn't even make it onto the board, that one.
So it will still count, and the jump will be measured, but it will be measured from the farthest part back of the board, which means that she is losing distance, which is unfortunate. But again, it just comes down to the consistency of the runway. And a lot of that has to do with confidence in your running, confidence in the execution, and it's just a buildup of experience, and this will be part of that learning experience.
Well, lifetime best of 450 set this season, 380 for the earlier jump. 4:38 is the best for Bulliglem. So she stays in 7th position as Didai, who won gold back in 2017, looking to improve, currently in 6th place. 4:54 with her opening jump. Has progressed backwards since then, so she'll be looking for something a bit bigger with number 4. Well, that one's from just back before the board as well, so the same as Bulliglem from the last one. It will be taken from the furthest point.
Yeah, again, I think it's tough when you feel like you're losing out on the centimeters, and it can be disappointing to see the mark, but I hope that, you know, she'll realize and her coach realize that she actually is running really, really well, which is why I'm really feeling for her on these distances.
The actual camera shot we're seeing from behind the pit when the athlete's running straight down, that one there, just shows you it may not look difficult, but you're running complete visual impairment. To keep that directionality and to make sure you're between the two tram lines and you're taking off from near or on the board is quite a difficult thing to do. Now, I've said to people, if you blindfold yourself and try and run down a grass pitch, you'll realise how difficult this type of thing is.
Well, I would recommend just walk. Don't run maybe for the
I
start.
say grass. You notice how I say grass? Probably should do it on the beach, on sand. Probably simpler.
I think it's so easy to watch and just underestimate how difficult it is because they make it look so easy.
Well, 4:56 for Didai, so an improvement. So it is her best, but she stays in 6th position as the lady who lost her championship record to Merciarova half an hour so ago, Brazil's Silvania Costa, currently in 5th position. 4:59 her best. That was the middle jump of the first 3. So the reigning Paralympic champion does like that one. You heard the roar. You see the hands go up. She took off from around the middle of the board. 4:59 her best so far. She lost that championship record. She does hold the world record set 7 years ago in Sao Paulo. That's 5:46. Now, this may not be at 5:46, but it certainly looks like it's going to be an improvement on what she has thus far.
She's very expressive about her jumps, isn't she? She yells as she takes off. She hits the sand.
Well, that looked like happiness, didn't it? One of the earlier ones looked like she slammed down in disappointment, but that there with a smile as she slammed her hand down looked a lot more impressive to her.
Well, that's the thing about long jump. As an athlete, you can get the full range of emotions within a single event.
Well, she's just outside the medal positions at the moment. It was a season best of 4:71. She needs to improve. 4:82 is what's in front of her. .451 for Silvania Costa. So she's in 5th position. Her compatriot, Lorena Salvatini, now goes in number 4. And that one there looked like it almost didn't have the takeoff you talk about before, the actual acceleration point to take off with that leg power there. It looked like she almost took a straight stride through.
It's true, and you do, as you take off, you do have to change your trajectory slightly from a run, but she has had 2 fouls in the last 2 rounds, and so the focus of this one may have been largely, let's just get another run in.
Well, she actually did well to make sure she straightened back up then and came back between those tram lines.
She did, and do you know what? That in itself is a good skill to have, because there are times when it's the final round and you need to produce, and so she's learning as she goes. Some jumpers jump off speed, some jumpers jump off I call it the pop quality, which perhaps isn't the technical quality, and she's definitely a speed jumper.
Well, 4:43 for the lady who took gold in Lyon back in 2013. So she stays in 4th position, doesn't improve on that season best she set in her first jump of 471.
Yeah, Alba Garcia had that brilliant attempt in the 3rd round to go up to 482, and a new lifetime best as well, significantly for her. 15 centimetres on top of her previous best, which was set earlier this year. She's in really hot form. She only turned 21 in February, but really young when she made a championship debut. Right now it's Brazil 4 and 5, Salvatini, and the Paralympic champion and world record holder Sylvania Costa. Zhu, the reigning world champion, currently in 2nd position, 482. She's okay. She can abort the run. She's 46 seconds to go. 2 guides, by the way, one at the far end of the runway, one in the near. That clock stopped on 46, but to my mind, she hasn't broken the plane, so I would think she would be okay.
The rule is if the athlete or the guide instructs the athlete to abort the jump, the clock timer is stopped until the athlete has been reset or done the reorientation, which is what she's doing right now and just adjusting. And do you know what? That is exactly what you should do. If the jump does not feel right and you have time, it shows a lot of maturity just to abort it and collect yourself. And actually, I love the attitude of both guides there. They weren't rushed, they weren't hurried, they took her time, made sure that she was confident and comfortable, and as soon as the officials feel as though she is reset, that timer will restart.
It's very shrewd. So, Garcia coming strong. Nice effort. Well, her first 2 attempts were not up to her own personal standards. Her 3rd definitely was, setting new standards. That one was very nice indeed.
That was a great jump, and that was a jump worth resetting for. And even though she's in 3rd place right now, at the moment she is tied with Zhu of China on countback. So even if she doesn't go beyond 482, it is her second, her backup jump that really matters, and it either needs to be above 477 or the jump needs to be over 482 for her to get into 2nd position.
Well, that's not an improvement on 482. It's not too far off it. She's given that a really good whirl. I mean, 467 was a lifetime best from earlier this year, and she's found a really great stride of form. She has not won a global medal before. This 458, I should point out, if she'd gone 478, she'd have gone into 2nd and countback, because both her and Zhu, the reigning world champion, have done 482 previously. So Zhu, he's won gold at the last 2 World Championships. Solid effort again from the Chinese. It was gold in the long jump in Dubai 4 years ago. It was gold in the 100 and the 200 in London. Gold in the 4x1 in the Paralympic Games in Rio in 2016. So she's had a nice variety in her career to date.
Zhu is a fantastic on the runway. I really like the way that her knees pick up, as we can see there. And she will have come into this competition. She had the world lead. She will have been expecting to be in 1st position, and so she is an athlete who will have to be readjusting during these rounds and really looking to. Well, actually, we can see there she has a little bit of tape on her hamstring, and I do wonder if that is making any sort of a difference, but she is definitely looking to find a few more centimeters.
Well, she's being consistent. Same again for her, 477 for the 2nd attempt in a row. Keeps her in 2nd position. On countback, remember, just ahead of Alba Garcia. And we have our competition leader to go with her 4th attempt in round 4 with 2 rounds to go. Asila Mirza-Yarova, that championship record of 508. She's in hot form. Well, she showed her potential fulfilled her potential in Tokyo 2 years ago. Silver in the Paralympic Games. Oh, that's another belter! She's on form this morning. Each of her 3 attempts so far would be good enough for the gold. And Mirza Yurova, 5:08 in round 2. And that's looking another gem this time.
I mean, she is so calm and cool and collected right now. I did catch the faintest glimmer of a smile as she got up. But again, we're just seeing, you can see her ability to bound in that shot, and the way she combines it with her run and the way she times up her landing. You can tell that her coach has really, really invested a lot of time into the technique, because you can be fast and you can be powerful, but if you don't have the right technique, you won't be able to put it all together.
Another magnificent effort from Asila Mirza Yurova. Every single mark from her up to this point would have her in the lead. Very close to that 5:08 mark again. It's 5:01 for Mirza Yurova. Magnificent. Okay, are we seeing the correct pictures? And from one great champion to another.
Women's shot put F41 for those of shorter stature. Here's a lady who needs no introduction. Reigning world and Paralympic champion. Her first attempt, the Rawa Talili of Tunisia. She holds the world and championship record. And that one there isn't too far off her own championship record. Always someone who goes into one of these events with nothing but gold on her mind. She's also won 4 world championships in discus and also 2 Paralympic golds in discus as well. A complete all-rounder. Rawa Talili. Wonderful technique, wonderful balance. I wonder whether it's a wonderful score. Yes, it is. 10.14 metres off her championship record, but it puts her in first place.
Well, Coppola has gone out to 377 in her 5th round attempt, and Delia Bouligam, who had a really good time in her major championship debut in Bydgoszcz, 4th in the long jump there at those Europeans 2 years ago, but bronze in the 100 metres as well. 4:38 in round 3. 4:50 her lifetime best from this year. 4:50 would still keep her in 7th spot. So to rise even 1 place into 6, she needs the jump of her life coming here or in the next round. But she's shown really good consistency in front of a home crowd as well. A nice crowd of a couple of thousand this morning in the Stade Charité. 100,000 tickets sold this week, and €10 if you're watching anywhere reasonably close to Paris. You will be very, very welcome indeed.
I'm intrigued by her runway, because every attempt she's actually run the same pattern where she runs a little bit off the runway and then finds herself right down the middle again.
It's almost like a mini curve, like a high jumper, in a way that she curves around to bring herself back onto the runway.
I was wondering, maybe that is intentional, and they've just found that is what works for that athlete.
Well, 4:28 there for Bouligam, so stays in 7th position with her penultimate jump. Now, a lady who'd like to improve on where she is at the moment. 4:56 with her previous jump, which puts her in 6th position. She has some work to do, though. She needs to make up 27 centimetres to get herself up into the medal positions. Well, that one there she's happy with.
That was a solid and smooth jump, and it's always a good sign when you see that an athlete has a season's best and a PB that match in a season, because it's generally a sign that they are in very good form. And as an athlete, when you have that sort of consistency of the jumps, and they've all been in and around the 450 region, to me that's always a sign that that athlete is ready to take a step up.
Well, she's been around for a while. She turns 42 later this year. She won gold back in 2017. Something you know about winning gold in London in 2017, Steph. But here, she maybe hasn't been up to the standard she's expecting or would like. But she's been consistent. 454, 451, 448, 456, and 453 for this here. So she's been all within a few centimetres each time, around the same mark. She stays 6th, and she'll have one jump left in the coming 15 minutes or so to try and propel herself further up that leaderboard.
And the benefit of being consistent is that for her coach, we're coming up to the 6th and final round. He'll know, actually, I can push the boundaries, I can take a little bit of a risk. Maybe he'll set her up 15 or 20 centimeters in advance of her runway, knowing she's going to run the same mark and hopefully get. When you can take risks, you have options.
Well, Sylvania Costa, who last competed at the Worlds back in 2015 when she won gold. She won gold in the last 2 Paralympic Games as well, in 2016 and 2020. She's currently in 5th position. 4:59 with her 2nd, 4:51 with her 4th, and 2 fouls as well. So what can her and her guide conjure here as she calls for silence in the crowd? So a fair jump. White flag, meaning it will be measured. You just saw her there put her finger up to her mouth before jumping there, because it is the T11 category, if you are just joining us, that you want complete silence if you're the athlete, because you rely on your hearing with that complete visual impairment. The guide there just moving at the right time. And that was a decent jump.
It was decent. She ran straight. She didn't have to make any adjustments. Wouldn't have lost any speed. Another solid jump, and they're all coming in and around 4:49 on that attempt. So no improvement. Again, another athlete who's showing a lot of consistency, but as we're getting to the final rounds, consistency won't get you into the medals.
Well, this lady will be hoping to get into the medals. She jumped a season best, 4:71 with her first. She needs to find about another 12 centimetres. The second of the Brazilians competing in this women's long jump T11 complete visual impairment category. She won gold back in 2013, silver in 2015 in Doha, and bronze in Rio 7 years ago. And you can see there, that is around the 5 metre mark when it comes to the actual measurement out in the pit. But it all comes back to the measurement of where she jumps from. They look happy though, her and a guide.
That did look like an excellent jump. And again, another Brazilian athlete. We know that they have excellent pedigree. And when it comes to the visually impaired events. Combination of great guides and great athletes, and she did look to start quite far off the board.
She jumped way back, so this is going to gain her a bit of momentum, a bit of distance on what she's jumped previously, so I'd expect something a little bit bigger. And it looks like it is a bit bigger. She's moved from 4th up into 2nd position, 4.85, so it puts her ahead of Zhu and Garcia Fallaghan. She's in the silver medal position. Is Lorena Salvatini, the lady who won bronze back in Rio 7 years ago. She won a silver in 2015. She won this event back in 2013. She's in the medals now. She's 2nd.
Absolutely flying. Means Alba Garcia at the moment is out of the medals. 4.78 would be good enough for her to go up into 2nd and can back. That's not a bad attempt, to be honest with you. So right now, Zhu on 4.82 in 3rd, Garcia in 4th on 4.82. So it's the 2nd counting jump that at the moment has Zhu Guha in the bronze medal position. The pressure's on Alba Garcia, but she's so close to her first ever global medal.
This is exciting. Again, we can see that the positions are changing almost with every jump. It's such a difficult position to be in 4th place at the moment, knowing that you've actually jumped the same jump as 3rd.
Well, that effort by Salvatini, a season's best 4.85. Garcia, remembering they're measuring from where they take off, so there may be a little bit of an optical illusion, as there was for Garcia there. That is 4.42, and so she stays in 4th position for now. But her best attempt equal with that of this woman, the reigning world champion from China, Zhu Guha. Those 2 most recent efforts of 4.77, so you take out that 2nd round attempt, similar to what Garcia had done, a miscalculation where she basically took off from the first step inside the pit. That's a nice go-to. There's only 5 centimetres between her best 3 attempts, and you can't say much better than that. And an extra 18 centimetres if findable for her. 5.02 is her lifetime best this year, which would be good enough right now for silver, and if she can squeeze another few centimetres out, who knows?
Again, she's such a consistent and such a quick runner. She runs with such confidence right down the center of the runway. And again, all these things matter because it means that all of the forces are going into giving her distance. And that looked to be quite a good jump. She was quite near to the start of that board. And from our eyes, that was quite close to the 5-meter mark.
It's another really solid attempt, her best of the day, and in her own right now. She's in the bronze medal position, 4.83, and she's only 2 centimetres away from Salvatini of Brazil in the silver medal position. But there's one woman right out on her own with the championship record of 5.08 in round 2. Even that 4.97, her shortest attempt of the morning, would be enough for the gold medal right now. The leader from start to close on the finish. Just a brilliant stride. That is poetry. Glorious run-up. A very confident run-up. Straight and through. Beautiful technique, and she's getting the results to match.
She is. Her consistency has really impressed me. And again, actually, that shot was fantastic because not only did she have a fantastic run-up there, you can just watch as she kicks those heels out at exactly the perfect moment just before she lands. And her internal sense of rhythm and her body awareness and her proprioception to be able to do that every single time speaks volumes to her talent, but also the way that she has been coached.
Oh, she's got every reason to be joyful. That's the best yet. It's another new championship record. 5:13 for Asila Mirza-Yurova. And right now, she is well on the way to gold. Sylvania Costa, the world record holder, down in 5th. The at the moment outgoing world champion Zhu Guhao in 3rd. Mirza-Yurova, magnificent.
And that is the first time I really feel like I've seen her break out in a smile, hands over her head. It looks like she's actually shocked herself.
These championships are well underway now.
Well, we'll move from a lady who knows she may pick up a gold medal to a lady who knows she has gold medals. 6 Paralympic and 8 World Championships gold for Rawa Talili of Tunisia. Her first was 10.14, straight into the gold medal position. Has she been able to improve on that at the very end? Let's have a look and see how she goes. A few in the 9 metre category. That one there has gone over 10 again. So the question now, 10.14 with her first. That looks very similar to what her first was. She fouled 965, 969, 960. This one, with her final attempt, she's happy. The reigning champion in the World Championships and also the Paralympic Games. Has she picked up another gold? She's got gold jewellery on already. She's going to add another gold medal as well. 10.15, she's improved by 1 centimetre. The gold medalist from Tunisia.
Final round of the women's long jump T11. Complete visual impairment. It'll start with Rosaria Coppola of Argentina in 8th spot. 388, her best so far. Ploughed into that one. 446 is her lifetime best. That would be good enough for 7th right now. Bula Glem, who's been a European sprint medalist, is currently taking up that spot. Deadeye, a regular European medalist in 6th. So many great names being shoved down by Mirza-Yurova, who emerged gloriously 2 years ago in Tokyo. She's shown her prime ability here. Coppola, a growing Argentine team. She's just about 70 centimetres off her best. It's the thing about lifetime best. It is a lifetime best. It's a one-off thing until the next one comes along. But she's just a bit off that this morning.
Some athletes will come to these World Championships and they will realize their dreams, and for some it will be a learning experience. And it's valuable either way. It gives you a chance to go away and work out where your competitors are at and what you have to do.
Well, she's given it a really good go this morning. That will not improve, and Coppola finishes in 8th position. 388, her best of the morning. 367 it is in the last round. Bula Glem ready to go. Deadeye will be next. Here comes Delia Bula Glem. She's gotten back onto the straight and narrow again. Well, that just has to be her style. Just a little waver to the left-hand side and then she straightens up, and if it works, it works. Bula Glem did finish 4th in the European Championship final with this kind of mark in Bydgoszcz 2 years ago, the 100 metres bronze medalist. And then she keeps coming back right at the end. It's not going to be a major improvement, I don't think, to keep her in 7th position.
You can tell she has excellent speed. We know that she's very fast. Just a little bit more work on the in-air position and the takeoff. And she has a year now to go away and work on that.
That's 398, and Bula Glem, the first French competitor in action this week, finishes in 7th position. It is an earlier start than usual as well because of the heat in Paris this time of year. 9 a.m. start instead of 10. Does that make a slight difference or no?
Do you know what? I think to an extent it can. Some people are naturally wired for the morning, some naturally wired for the evening. I think in terms of the science behind it, your hormones tend to peak around about midday. But the reality is it's a big schedule and somebody has to go first. And athletes will know where they're going to be at and you train for it. If you know that you've got to be ready for a 9 a.m. competition at a major global final, then you spend those few months making sure that your body is prepped.
Ayola Deadeye finished 6th in the long jump in the last World Championships 4 years ago. 6-time European Championship medalist. She's always, in each of her 3 European Championships, won a long jump medal and then a medal in the sprints. Not yet a gold, but that can't be too far away. And that woman right now is very close to the gold medal. It will take a championship record to beat her. And she's broken it twice already this morning. Ayola Deadeye then. 4:56 her best of the morning. 5 attempts, they've all been good. There's only 8 centimetres between them. I don't think you can ask too much more than what she's done today. 4:68 is a lifetime best set earlier this year. She's come 12 centimetres away from that. It's been a solid morning for her. Her lifetime best from this year would have her in 5th anyway. She's 6th as it stands. She's very much fulfilled current form. Well, she's one of the continental best.
You're right. I think when you come to championships, everyone, yes, you have, kind of your dream goals, which is to win a gold medal. But the best thing that you want to do is just to quit yourself for that season and just be in and around your personal best. And I think she will be quite proud with that.
4:41 for Deadeye, 6th for her. And now some seriously big names to contest the medals. And Costa, who won the most recent major title, the Paralympic Games in Rio, is down in 5th spot. And she's almost a metre off her world record from 7 years ago. She's lost the championship record. Has she got one final major attempt in her this morning? .459 in the second round and 2 misses either side. It's the divisive moment for her. She's given it a lot, but that might not be enough for her. Another 25 centimetres would put her on the podium. Has she been able to get that? Goes quite early, but at least she didn't lose any direction. If she takes off before the chalk, it gets measured from where the chalk begins. Then she'd have lost quite a bit of distance. All told, it's one of her best of the morning. But that's not going to be enough. 4:57, Costa in 5th spot, and she will not be among the medals today. Four to go in this. And between 2nd, 3rd and 4th, there's only 3 centimetres. This woman is well beyond that. Alba Garcia has got her openings. 4:82, her best. gets the white flag. We'll give you details of her attempt in a moment, because the first track action of the week is imminent.
So an overcast morning, conditions a little cooler. T11 women competing in the long jump. And we'll continue that theme as we head to the track, because it will be the T11 women on the track. The 1500 meters, world record held by Monica Olivia Rodriguez Saavedra of Mexico, and Zheng Jin with the championship record that was set in Doha in 2015. Neither of those athletes competing. 2 heats to take place in the women's 1500 meters. In the second of the heats, Joanna Mazur of Poland, who would go into this as one of the favourites, will take her position. We only have 3 who are heading out in this opening heat of the women's 1500 metres T11. Norjarog of Kenya, Foundes of Chile, and Kurtzi of South Africa, who won silver in this in 2020. She also won bronze in the marathon, and it is her who heads out very quickly indeed. So Luzang Kurtzi of South Africa with her guide Erasmus Badenhorst. Complete visual impairment. So as with every complete visual impairment, you must have a guide who goes with you. You are checked to make sure that you cannot see a thing. And it is at the back, Margarita Foundes of Chile, already struggling in the opening lap, and we have 2 out in front. This will be the first 2 in each heat, which goes through, and the next 2 fastest qualifiers will advance through to the final as they move around through their opening lap. And at the moment, Steph, it looks like Luzang Kurtzi is doing it quite well, and when they know the top 2 are going to go through, the guides have a lot to do in this and making sure they don't use up too much energy.
I guess it's interesting strategically, because you can't win a medal in the rounds. The best you can do is advance to the final, and so this really is a case of doing the least amount possible to get into that final. And so it's just an additional responsibility for the guide. Not only are they having to be able to guide and maneuver the athlete, you know, if you're in a tight pack, it's much more difficult to maneuver 2 bodies as opposed to 1, but they are also giving the athlete information about where they are in the race, about the pacing, and making sure their athlete finishes in the place that they need to.
Well, the Kenyan Norjarog was 4th in Dubai 4 years ago, the last time we had World Championships. And Kurtzi, as I said, she was silver in Tokyo just a couple of years ago, and she also picked up a bronze medal in the marathon. She was 4th back in 2017 in London in this event. So there is quite a distance between the first 2 and the 3rd place athlete at the moment, Margarita Foundes of Chile. So unless something goes dramatically wrong, you would expect these 2 to go through. Now, the reason I say that is because what happens in the T11 complete visual impairment, you need to have that synchronicity with your partner. Now, sometimes things go wrong, and all of a sudden someone might get tired, they might fall down, they might go off the track, and it can lead to a disqualification, which we have seen in the past. So even though I say these 2 are out in front at the moment, it doesn't mean with a couple of laps to go that they're definitely going to finish in those 2 positions, because the way that parasport works, that you have a lot of rules you have to adhere to. You have to stay on the track, not gain any advantage by going off the track. So it's appropriate to make sure that you just take your time and actually follow through as they're doing at the moment.
That's a good point. As the athletes are running, there will be technical officials around the track. For example, if at any point it appears that the guide appears to be pulling the athlete as opposed to guiding, then that can lead to disqualification. You'll notice as they run, it's up to the athlete to decide which side they want to have the guide on. Each athlete in this case has chosen a different side, and sometimes it's just about preference in terms of your body. I guess technically the guide is running more distance if they happen to be on the outside. And it's interesting as well just to see the way that they are physically attached to each other at the arm.
I think it's very important as well. You have to mention that the guide has to have a good pace about them. They have to have great fitness themselves, because the athlete doesn't want to be waiting for the guide to make sure they hurry up and keep up with them. I should also mention that when they actually finish the race, the athlete has to go across the line before the guide. If the guide is to go across as they take the bell with 1 lap remaining, if the guide is to go across first before the athlete, it would be an automatic disqualification. The athlete has to cross the line before the guide. As Luzanne Coetzee, who races out in front. It's a definite 2-horse race at the moment between Coetzee and Nojaroj of Kenya. And it's just a case of them two just keeping the same position as they have done throughout the race, I should say. And at the moment, with around 250 metres to go, they're looking strong. The pace has picked up a little bit from Luzanne Coetzee. Now, it is a psychological factor at times when you do get across that line first.
I was surprised to see the pace pick up as well, because I mean they're far away and clear, and we already know the first 2 are going to qualify. But you're right, sometimes it is just laying down that message. I'm in pole position. I'm here to win.
Well, we're not going to have to worry about any world or championship records in this opening heat of the women's 1500 metres T11. The conditions are a lot cooler on this morning. Coetzee is maybe tightening up a little bit as they head towards the end, and we'll just have to make sure that she does go across the line. Now, Nojaroj and her guide are making a bit of a run for it down the outside there, but it looks like Coetzee is going to hold on. As I say that, Nojaroj is going to go across in first place. So it is Kenya in first and South Africa in second. Nojaroj goes across and takes it with 5 metres remaining. She sat in second the whole way and paced it quite well. James Boyd, the guide there on the left-hand side of Luzanne Coetzee, allowed her across the line. So it is Kenya in first position and South Africa in second. Now the other runner in this race, Margarita Fernandez, has around 150 metres left remaining, so she will finish the race and go through in third. Now this is important because it does mean still that we have 2 qualifiers that go through, the 2 fastest, which should advance. So in the next up heat we have 3 people competing. So 2 will go through from this. There is Margarita Fernandez, who we just saw. There's our winner, Nojaroj. So 2 will still go through as the fastest qualifiers. So in effect we should still have all the athletes are going through, because 2 from each heat would go through, and the 2 fastest would still be the 2 qualifiers who finished in third position in each heat. Margarita Fernandez does go across and finishes her race in the women's 1500 metres T11. So we'll get confirmation of those official results in the opening track event of these championships. Nojaroj in 4:54.86. Coetzee 4:54.90, and Margarita Fernandez a season best for her, finishing in third position. She will qualify, as I said, because there are only 3 who are taking part in the next heat, so she will be through to the final. So Coetzee, you saw she got away extremely quickly there with her guide. She led all the way until the very end, and then look at this. She just loosens up a little bit in the last 10 metres, 5 metres even, 3 metres even. And Nojaroj gets across and just takes it on the line. But that was a pretty handy race for the 2 of them. And didn't take it too hard, Steph.
That was very sneaky from Nojaroj, just getting over the line first there. But in many ways, this was the perfect run out for them. The temperature is much cooler today. Well, you can see we don't normally have a photo finish on a distance race, but it was close. And maybe, I think those 2 athletes probably went faster than they needed to, for sure. But again, it's just kind of sending a message ahead of the final, what everyone's intentions are. Well,
still 20 or so seconds outside that world and championship record. So there's confirmation of Nojaroj going through first, Luzanne Coetzee of South Africa through in second, and Fernandez does qualify with a season best time of 5:58.65. Jeb Kamai did not start from Kenya.
Alba Garcia just missing out on the medals in the women's long jump. She wrapped up with that 4:57. So, back to it. Mazurova on the way to gold. Every single attempt she's had this morning would have been good enough for the gold medal. Zhu wrapping up 4:83. In the 5th round, Salvatini going up to 4:91 with her last attempt. But Asila Milzarova of Uzbekistan, a glorious morning. She takes the World Championship title for the first time. And Uzbekistan have hit gold. A championship record, 5 meters 13. And Asila Mirzayourova, the Paralympic silver medalist, is now the world champion. Salvatini with the silver for Brazil, and Zhu the bronze for China. Excellent attempt by Salvatini in the end with a season's best of 491, and Mirzayourova has still won by 22 centimeters. That a lifetime best as well, by 14 centimeters. And twice today, she's broken Silvania Costa's old championship record. Mirzayourova, the gold for Uzbekistan, 5:13, a new championship record. Salvatini, the silver for Brazil, and Zhu Guha, the bronze for China. Silvania Costa, the Paralympic champion, finishing in 5th place. Wow, that was domination anyway, I have to say, Steph.
Well, I mean, Mirzayourova, she had that competition wrapped up with her very first jump. But I think one of the great things about it as well is that we saw what you always want to see in a field event. You want to see those positions changing every single round as different athletes find their rhythm. And we had so much of that, lots of drama, and it just makes it really exciting to watch. And as the event progresses, and because this event, you not only need to have talented athletes, but you have to also invest in talented coaches and talented guides. And so it takes some time, but as we can see, those skill sets are finding their way all around the world now.
Mirzayourova in the last World Championships, which were 4 years ago, so a lot longer of a gap. She was in 7th place there, but had progressed to 2nd in the long jump in Tokyo, and now she is the champion. The 13th arrondissement in South Paris, Stade Charlotte, lovely venue. The Diamond League was here a few weeks ago. It's where Paris FC play in Ligue 2 in the French League football. So, new event for us, it's the men's javelin F38. That is the strongest of the standing coordination impairment categories. 7 going in this. And we're in the opening stages of it. Raul Talili and Asila Mirzayourova won the first 2 golds of Paris 2023. Jose Lemos of Colombia is the reigning Paralympic champion and world record holder here. Corey Anderson also in this, the championship record holder. As we're watching David Kavtaradze gliding that one out well. He missed out in the opening round. That was a no throw from the Georgian. And a lifetime best with his second round attempt of all the 3s. But right now he's finding himself 16 meters off the medals. .33.33, his second round attempt. And that a new lifetime best of 35.14. So now the second heat, semi-final effectively of the women's 1500 meters tier 11. That is complete visual impairment. And one of the permanent greats is in this. Everybody, by the way, here in the last 4 years, a major championship medalist. We've the reigning European and Asian champions in this. Jana Mazur of Poland, the reigning European champion. Rakshita Raju of India, the reigning Asian Games champion from 4 years ago in Jakarta. And Nancy Koech, the Paralympic silver medalist from Tokyo 2 years ago. World championship bronze last time as well in Dubai. Top 2 to go through in this. We may only have 3 competing, but the standard, I don't think, could be much higher than what we've got. Rakshita Raju from Chickman. Glor, the youngest in the field at the age of 22. So we're underway. Joanna Mazur of Poland, the European champion with the guide Michał Stawicki of Poland. Rakshita Raju of India with her guide Rahul Balakrishna. And Nancy Koech of Kenya, the Paralympic Games silver medalist. A world championship bronze last time out in Dubai 4 years ago with her guide Jeffrey Rotich. And in a lot of cases, remember, guides are quite decent athletes in their own right. They have to be. Joanna Mazur, who's been winning major championship medals since going back to 2016 when she won gold in Grosseto in the European Championships. 2018 gold in the 400 and the 15. That was in Berlin 5 years ago. And then in the Europeans on home soil in Bydgoszcz 2 years ago, the European 1500 meters champion. She was fourth in the 1500 final, was Joanna Mazur in Tokyo. And she is the reigning world champion right now. And she leads with 3 laps to go, with Koech in second spot and Raju in third.
It's really hard to overemphasize the team nature of this event. You mentioned that the guides themselves have to be incredibly fit, because as you'll see, and this heat is a great example, the top athlete guide pairings, they actually run with a stride pattern that matches. We'll see that both in the sprints and also in the distance events, because it's just the most efficient way, but it's up to the guide to adjust to the athlete. So if you are being asked to run at a pace that isn't natural for you, it makes it harder. So in a sense, you have to make sure that you're even fitter, and on top of that, they're often there and talking to the athlete and giving them information about times and positions. And so to be able to do all of that and still have your breath, it's a huge commitment and a huge amount of work.
Title later in the year in Hangzhou. India, of course, have won a tremendous amount of titles, particularly in the field, particularly in the javelin, in the last 7 years since Rio. It's a strong lead that Mazur and Koech have over Raju at the moment, steady going. But Raju, of course, can obviously go through as the fastest loser, as we've always traditionally called them. I know they've kind of veered towards calling them fastest non-qualifiers and so on, which is a bit more of a mouthful, but never mind. But Mazur is in good control, nice and calm right now, and Raju in third spot is running her own race, her own pace, and she doesn't look quite threatened or worried at the moment or panicked about where her position is, even if she's about 40 meters down.
Well, the benefit of going in the second heat, as we know, is that you know exactly what time you need to run, and with the qualification being first 2 in each heat and the next 2 fastest times, it's important to remember you don't have to give it your all. You just need to do enough to get into the next heat. Actually, it's interesting there, just watching Mazur's guide. The Kenyan team is very close to them. It's going to be interesting to know how you make that balance between giving enough information but not letting them hear your strategy.
Well, Mazur at the bell, leading the way with Koech in second spot. I'm not sure she's close enough to hear, and even then, if she's smart enough to know Polish, that might be a different story. But these are the top 2 who are going to go through with 300 meters to go, and then Raju is going to be all about her time, about where she comes through. But there's no doubt about who we're going to see in the final. We're going to see some of the best around. Joanna Mazur, the European champion, the world gold medalist from London 2017. And you know, that performance really blew up majorly in Poland. There was a video doing the rounds on social media which ended up getting some like 15 million views in Poland alone. She ended up winning the Polish edition of Dancing with the Stars. You'll remember, the para-athlete of the year in Poland. And this, the latest stepping stone to more glory. Koech knows her very well. Koech with the Paralympic silver medal when Mazur finished 4th in Tokyo. And now Koech will pounce. She's going to get the win for a strong psychological blow in her favour going into the final. Koech wins it. Mazur in 2nd place, 5:15.02 the winning time. Not much between them in the end. Raju trying to pick up to make sure that she will be in the final, and I think she will be. I think that'll be good enough. So the top 3 in this, we will see in the final. And she put a lot into that closing lap, did Rakshita Raju, just to make sure. But for Koech and Mazur, well, if they wish to treat it as a training run, they could very much do so. I know they'll all go through. I think you do as well. And Koech takes the victory. Not much difficulty in the end, and it was Mazur leading all the way, and Koech then said in the final 50 minutes or so, well, I'll be having that, thank you very much. And they've got more work to do later in the week, and they can go for it all over again. But they're in the final. Mazur was allowed by Koech really to do a lot of the work. She stayed a couple of strides behind all the way through, and then here she said, right, time to go and time to get the victory for Kenya.
Again, she didn't need to do that. I don't think Mazur will mind too much coming in 2nd, but there is that definite psychological advantage to say, I won this, but also I hope Mazur and her athlete and her guide are making notes about the strategy for the Kenyan athletes.
Just came on the outside. Well, she's won silver in the 2016 Paralympic Games, bronze then in Tokyo in 2021. But Mazur, who has been world champion, who is still European champion. Progress for them. And Rakshita Raju, who's the Asian Games champion and in effect the Asian champion. It was an Asia Oceania Championships held for the first time 7 years ago. Koech takes it 5:15 dead, Mazur in 2nd, 5:16.01. Raju in 3rd for India, and they are all through to the final. Floodlights are on. It's a bit duller, actually, in Paris than we were expecting this morning, considering what the weather's been like the last 4 or 5 days since everyone came in. And it's been blissfully cool, just around 22, 23 Celsius, which I know for some of us is a warm day. So 2 champions crowned already. The men's javelin F38 is ongoing. Coordination impairment, the physically strongest of the standing categories. And Cody Jones.
Cody Jones of the United States, a lifetime best of 46.60. This here is 5th attempt for the American. Currently landing in 6th position, 40.25 with his opening throw. He was 5th back in 2015, no improvement, so 33.96 for his penultimate effort leaves him in 6th place. Alexander Doroshenko of Ukraine, who sits in 4th. Go all the way back to 2006 when he picked up a bronze medal. He picked up silver in 2019. Bronze in the championships in London before that. And he'll be looking to improve on that 4th place. He's just pulled up just short, so he's managed to maintain and manage not to go across the mark as the clock keeps on counting. He's got plenty of time though, but he's not happy with that either. So he's pulled up again. Well, this is almost like a shuttle race here. He's going backwards, he's going forwards, he's going backwards. He still has less than 30 seconds to put himself in position, but this has to surely psychologically put a big dent in your hopes. Well, he's fouled anyway. He's put his left trailing leg has gone through. He lost his balance. And I'd say there, Steph, that he's almost put himself off for those first two attempts where he's had to pull himself back.
Well, actually quite similar to the long jump. The run-up in the javelin is really important. He actually has a beautiful run-up. You've got a series of sprint strides, then followed by crossover strides. But if you go over that line for the throw, it's a foul, and you have to get that run-up right. He clearly was not happy with something, and it's not ideal to do 2 full attempts before actually taking it. And he's got another round to hopefully sort that out for the 6th one.
Well, maybe the pressure of being in 4th position and you're 3 metres off those places maybe put him off a little bit. This man, Corey Anderson, who is the championship record holder from Dubai in 2019, when he picked up a gold medal, he was 4th in Tokyo a couple of years ago. And that one's out there towards that 45-metre mark. You can see his best so far was 44.89. That was his third. His previous attempt to this was a foul. Doesn't look like a happy camper at all. That's the reason why. 41.77. So he doesn't improve. He stays in 5th position. Here's a man who is in the medal positions. Vladislav Bilyi, season best with his opening throw of 49.08. His season best coming into this, as you can see there, was 40.82. So that is quite some achievement. 9 metres further than what he previously threw for the man who picked up silver at the last Paralympic Games. Well, that's out over the 45-metre mark. Legal throw, white flag given.
It was interesting to look at his technique. He actually doesn't use any sprint steps. He just goes right into his crossover steps.
You just wonder whether he might have pulled himself up a couple of metres short too, because he could have got himself a bit of extra distance. But as it is, 44.3 out for his 4th. That one there, 46.81. So he doesn't improve. Luis Fernando Lucumi of Colombia. Colombia currently occupy 1st and 2nd positions. It's bronze medalist from Tokyo. Finished 4th in 2019. He takes himself right up to the line. He gets a lot of height to that one. And that is very long indeed. That's out towards the 55-metre mark. Well, that's huge. The lead at the moment, and we'll see that man coming up, his compatriot Lemos, is out near the 60-metre mark. Well, that there, I think he likes that one, he does. That was sensational. 53.28 with his 2nd. It doesn't improve, but it's up there over the 53-metre mark. Well, what a day he's having. 53.11 for Luis Fernando Lucumi, who stays in the silver medal position. That was a decent throw.
I think it was interesting to watch that one, how he really combined the speed and then translated that into power. With javelin, it's this unique combination of you've got to have this physical, this power and explosion, and then combine that with precision. You mentioned actually the trajectory of his javelin and just how high he sent it.
Well, this man's on screen, David Cavtarazzi, because Jose Gregorio Lemos of Colombia has opted to not throw his 5th attempt. He's opted to throw 3rd, 4th and 5th, opted not to actually throw. So his first was 55.45. His 2nd was a championship record of 58.14, and he's opted to not throw his third, fourth and fifth attempts. He's in pole position as they head into their final throws. Kavtaradze will be the first of those to go in order from bottom to top. The man who has been a long jump and a sprinter prior to javelin. That's quite a difference, isn't it?
Well, actually, I think the sprint speed actually helps. I think we underestimate just how much speed is involved in the throws, which sounds weird, but even when we were watching Talila do her shot put, as she moves across the circle, she is imparting speed to the shot put before she puts the power on. It's much easier to move an object that's already moving than to move it from a standstill.
It's a fast twitch fiber thing.
It is, actually. I think the 30-meter sprints of several of the throwers will surprise a lot of people at how quick they are.
We get into fast twitch and slow twitch and lactic acid and all sorts of things, couldn't we? Maybe another time as Kavtaradze with his final attempt. Lifetime best with his previous one, 37.51. He's been consistent. He's been around the 35-meter mark for a couple of throws and one around the 30-meter mark. Doesn't take much of a run up. And that one there, not the trajectory which he would have wanted to get that mark in the ground. So, not the way he wanted to finish. But the Georgian has certainly competed to his capabilities. He's been rather consistent.
I think he will be quite pleased with that personal best, but anytime you're in an event where you're using an implement, that implement has to become a part of your body. It's actually not that different from if you are an amputee running with a prosthesis. Again, this javelin, it has to be a part of your body. You're not just throwing with your arm. It's almost this slingshot action with and you get a lot of the power from your hips and from your torsos, and that sort of feel and technique takes a long time to really hone and develop.
We're just waiting on confirmation here as to whether it's a foul or a fair throw. Looking at the javelin point has to hit the ground. Now, when you looked at it with the naked eye, it looked as if it hit quite flat. So that is why we're waiting on this decision from the officials. Isn't going to affect the actual overall positions in the competition. But of course, if you're the athlete and you want to improve yourself, you are looking for an actual score. So there's a bit of a hold up.
It's a great example, actually, of the frame of mind you have to be a field athlete. We were watching the javelin throwers earlier, and they were throwing during the 1,500-meter races, and they were having to watch and wait.
Well, it looks as if there's going to be a rethrow. So we'll try and get to the bottom of why the previous throw wasn't given, but Kavtaradze is going to throw again. So we'll try and get to the bottom of why we had the retake there.
It's quite a similar result as well. It landed quite flat.
Well, it's been given a white flag. That's what counts.
He's had 3 lifetime bests today. 37.51, his best in the 5th round. That's gone down as 32.32, so he stays in 7th place. It's a real curiosity. We haven't seen a huge amount of Jose Lemos, the leader for Colombia. He's not thrown in the last 3 rounds. Kavtaradze, 37.51, and he is in 7th position. Cody Jones lying in 6th place, bronze in the Pan Ams in Lima 4 years ago, with gold going to Luis Lukumi, who's currently in 2nd place. So it's Colombia 1 and 2. Colombia have got 2 reigning champions in this. Corey Anderson, the reigning world champion from 4 years ago, down in 5th spot, 44.89. He's around 12 meters off his lifetime best going into this. Cody Jones, 46.60 is his best throw of his career, but it all depends, particularly in the coordination impairment categories, how you are feeling on the day. Let's say F38, so it's the nominally least impaired of all of the coordination impairment categories. And that'll be his best throw of the day. Though he's heading towards 45 meters. It's certainly beyond 40. for only the second time today for him. 41.54, and Cody Jones, the United States, will finish in 6th place. Corey Anderson with the championship record in Dubai of 56.28. His last attempt is on the way. He's going to have to wait.
Well, back to the track. The opening heat in the men's 100 metres T12. This the medium visual impairment. Salam Kashafali of Norway, who's not competing in this event of these championships, the world record and championship record holder. First fastest will go through, and then the next two fastest qualifiers will advance to the final. So one definite from each heat. And this being the medium visual impairment category, you can see one of the athletes there, Fernando Vasquez of Argentina, with the guide. So you can choose to run with a guide in T12, or you can opt to run without. In T11, it is compulsory because it is complete visual impairment. Medium visual impairment category, though, you can decide to run without a guide. So there's our lineup. Vasquez of Argentina, Shaw of Great Britain, Malone of the US, and Jaco Smit of South Africa. Fernando Vasquez, lifetime best of 11.25. He's run 11.42 this year. He runs with his guide, Bruno Zanacchi. Zachary Shaw of Great Britain, 10.89, his lifetime best. 10.92, his season best. A best of 6th back in Doha in 2015. Noah Malone of the United States, silver in Tokyo in 2020. He's also a gold medalist in 2019 at the Worlds and in the Paralympics in 2020, the Universal Relay 4x100. He'll go as the favourite. And Jaco Smit, season best of 11.50, lifetime best of 11.31 for the man from South Africa. So Vasquez will go in lane 1, Shaw will go in 3, Malone in 5, and Schmidt will go from lane 7. Only first, definitely qualifies, that man there. Noah Malone of the United States of America will start as favourite. So the athletes have been asked to stand up. The starter not exactly happy. When you're in this position, Steph, and you would have been in this position, how do you quantify what's happening?
Well, you know, you don't necessarily know what the holdup is for, but it's just part of it. You have to always be prepared to reset yourself, bring your emotions back down, and refocus, because this is athletics. This is track and field. There are multiple things going on all the time, and you have to be able to be in your zone. And actually, in this event, it's the classes from T11 to T13. They have to use blocks. It's not an option.
So let's remember that tether also there. You can see the athlete has got the tether in his hand. You have to be tethered to your guide. And I mentioned in the 1500 metre race a little earlier, the guide cannot go across the line before the athlete. Now the tether has to be connected there, and if they lose the tether along the way, then that is also a disqualification. So Vasquez goes with Zanacchi, his guide, in lane 1. Shaw without a guide in 3, Malone in 5, and Schmidt in 7. It is Noah Malone who gets away fastest of all out in lane 5. Malone looking very strong there as he goes out to a 3 or 4 metre lead. Schmidt's trying to catch Shaw on the inside. Shaw second, Schmidt third, and it is Fernando Vasquez who comes in 4th position, but Noah Malone there in a time of 10.50 seconds, so not too far off the world record. That, in effect, is a new championship record. 10.54 going into this. Noah Malone has just smashed that championship record by 4/100ths of a second in his heat. He's just perhaps found out about it, but he looks cool, calm and collected, as does that man Jaco Schmidt. But Zachary Shaw with a lifetime best for him in 2nd position, also a lifetime best for Jaco Schmidt. Malone now is perhaps being told he's just broken that championship record, but Steph, that was a very, very solid run by the American.
I mean, it was very fast, but it just looked incredibly casual. it just looked like he was going at maybe about 80%.
Well, here's the start, and he gets away extremely quickly there The first 10 or 15 metres is where you get that big blast and that leg speed as you bring your head up, and he was well ahead by the halfway mark, and he almost looked like he wasn't actually going at full throttle then.
I think that actually is one of the signs of a great sprinter is you can't actually see the changes in the phases of the race. So he went straight from the start to the acceleration to the top speed, and it was just so smooth. And actually Zach Shaw had the perfect athlete to pace himself off of and get dragged to a quick time as well. But for all the men in this race, it just looked like a very easy race and yet very fast. And that's actually a great sign for the rest of the championships that we have a very fast track surface on our hands.
Well, Zach Shaw with a championship record. We should also note that the reason the athletes are running in lanes 1, 3, 5 and 7 is because if you opt to run with a guide, you need those 2 lanes to go through. Noah Malone there talking to Adi Adedoyan down on the pitch side surface there of the track, and well, he looks cool, doesn't he? He looks calm, he looks very collected, he's probably happy it's a nice cool morning. The track looks fast, he's setting championship record. We're off to an absolute flyer. There's confirmation of that. Noah Malone does go through. Lifetime bests for Shaw and Schmidt, with Vasquez finishing in 11:57 for him in 4th position.
This is a very high quality field. We have 2 men under 11, one just on the brink of it. But the thing is, only the first place athlete in each heat goes through, because it's a very difficult final to make when only 4 get into it.
It certainly is, and it's a crowd who are enjoying what's happening here. They're having a great time, nice and cool enough for them, a few refreshments, and watching some world-class para-athletics, whether it be on the field or whether it be what we're seeing at the moment on the track. They are having a great old time.
I should say Cody Jones went out to 41.54 in the last round of that javelin in the F38 coordination impairment. Corey Anderson just got a snatch of his last attempt, 44.27, so didn't improve, and 5th spot for the now former world champion. Jose Lemos in pole position from the 2nd round, 58.14.
And a shame that Noah Malone is not going to go up against Salam Kashafali in this event.
So now, seated discus F55, and this is Rosa Guerrero of Mexico. All the attempts coming at once. We are deep into this competition, but there's still a long way to go. There's still 5 to throw, and that is a belting effort from Guerrero, the Paralympic bronze medalist from Tokyo 2 years ago. Bronze in the shot in the Worlds in 2017. Well, her best prior to this was 25 metres 20 to put her into the gold medal position ahead of Diana Kremina of Latvia. Kremina's best, 24.63 in the last attempt. Dongfei Jia of China, the Paralympic champion, isn't going to overtake her. Guerrero leading, 26.12. So Guerrero currently in front, 26.12. Kremina in 2nd for Latvia, 24.63. And Dongfei Jia, the twice Paralympic champion, in 3rd. All the throws at once. 3rd will be the best for her. And we still have 4 competitors to go in this final. Puya is currently out there for India. 16.67 puts her in 7th. She still has 4 throws to go. We've had an African record for Nuala El Kawi, 21.31. But we've got scope to see a bit more of that later on. Well, that was an absolutely resounding effort by Noah Malone in that men's 100 metres T12, the medium category of visual impairment. Lovely crowds in this morning, massive crowds in last night for the opening ceremony. A reminder, 100,000 tickets have been sold. A reminder, there are still some to be sold, and they could have your name on them. Please do come along. If you're within a couple of hours of Paris, you'll be very, very welcome. And they only cost €10. Sessions are around 3.5 hours each. And the weather so far this morning has been pleasant. For once in the mornings. So Vigor and Luda are our mascots for the week. They're, what are they, panthers? Cheetahs?
Cats. The feline family.
We had a jaguar as a mascot at the Powerlifting World Cup a couple of weeks ago in Veracruz, and everybody got these really garish pink uniforms to wear with jaguars on them. Thankfully, I didn't. So now, back to the javelin and the climax of same. So this is Lemos. He gets the gold again. They have dominated this competition, have Colombia. They have the 1 and the 2. Lemos, 55-45 in the opening round, and that is the best of the day. What a magnificent effort by Jose Lemos in this F38 final. A brilliant second round attempt by him, by the reigning Paralympic champion from Tokyo. Luis Lukumi in second spot for Colombia right now. They are dominating the podium, and Lemos sending that out to a fantastic championship record, 58.14, and it breaks the championship record from 4 years ago of the outgoing world champion, Corey Anderson. Gold and silver for Colombia. Lemos 58.14, and Luis Lukumi, the Pan Am's champion, gets the silver. So Lemos, gold for Colombia, championship record 58.14. Lukumi, the silver for Colombia, 53.28. And Vladislav Bilye of Ukraine, the bronze, 49.08. Corey Anderson, the previous world champion, finishing 5th for Australia. Lovely venue, this 15,000 capacity as it is at the moment. Special podiums for the attendance, both the north and south of this stadium. Great multinational crowd here as usual. And just as you saw from that women's discus a few moments ago, it's Rosa Guerrero who leads from Mexico. There's still quite a bit to go in that. There's been a reset in the 100 meters, which is why we're waiting for this second heat. Salam Kashavali, the world record holder, 10:43, went around that mark again very quick at the Bislett Games a couple of weeks ago. Twice over. There's a story there, and a story that he's not in this because he's been recategorized to T13. So it's been felt that his vision was slightly better than this medium category. So he's got a chance of breaking that record there as well. We'll see him later in the T13, which is Jason Smith's old category, now in happy retirement and presumably watching on from home alongside his international compatriot Michael McKillop, who also announced his retirement in recent months. 4 to go in this heat. Also among the recent retirees, Isis Holt, which was quite a surprise, I must say. So it's the only the winner who goes through in this. It's T12, so you can have a guide if you wish. Not mandatory. Yamil Acosta of Colombia is in lane 1. Jefferson Marino, the world silver medalist from 2019 in Dubai, he's in lane 3. In 5, the world and Paralympic silver medalist from South Africa. And Ndomzi and Tutu of South Africa, 4th in the last World Championships 4 years ago. And Mounsef Bouja of Morocco he goes in lane 7. It's only the winner qualifying in this, and the fastest this season, Jefferson Marinho of Brazil, who goes in lane 3. He's the fastest lifetime best as well. So it's only the winner to go through, and the next 2 fastest to the final. None of them going with a guide in this. No guides in T13. It's optional in T12. It is mandatory in T11. So the winner takes all very much in this. Noah Malone taking the championship record, 10.50. What a standard to set in the first heat. Acosta 1, Marinho 3, and 2.25, Buja 7. And they're away this time. And what a blinding start by Acosta in 1. And now Marinho coming well for Brazil. Silver 4 years ago in 2-2 behind him. Here comes Buja now from Morocco to take it. 10.95 ahead of Marinho. And in 2-2, Buja's definitely in the final. And that's a lifetime best, 10.95 by a long way. He's taken almost 0.2 off it. He went out in the heats in Tokyo at the last Paralympic Games, but he's in the final here. And Jefferson Marinho, who led for a good bit, Acosta had a great start, but Buja finished magnificently.
That race certainly did not go to script. You're right, Marinho had a great start. And for many people, we all think that the 100 meters is just about the start, but actually it's the athlete that can get up to the top speed and maintain that. And the purpose of the start is to set you up for the end of the race, and Buja ran the whole way through, which unlike the 1500 meter meets, it really, really mattered in this one because only the top athlete is guaranteed into the final. The rest of the athletes are going to have to wait.
Oh, it's a really good start in 1 from Acosta. Then Marinho's coming into his 4. Keep your eye on Buja on the left all the way through. Great drive phase from him, and he almost ran that like it was his final. He's in the final now, and there's only 4 in the final. He's got a great chance of a medal here in this T12. And in 2-2, the world silver medalist last time out, Paralympic silver medalist, Marinho world silver medalist as well, 4 years ago. They are in jeopardy. They might not make it.
I mean, look at the distance that Buja made up in those last 30 meters. He came from about a meter behind and ended up a meter ahead.
I think, and 2-2 and Marinho, world silver medalists in the last 2 champions are out. It was a very fast opening heat. Noah Malone dragged them through in 10.50, and Buja just knew there, maybe seeing the times from the previous heat, he had to go for it. He did go for it. He's taken the only automatic spot from that heat into the final, and he is in the final, and he's the only one to go through. Buja qualifies 10.94, and 2-2, the Paralympic silver medalist, Marinho, the world silver medalist, are both out. Lifetime best of Buja as well in 10.94. Wow.
I think that shows the benefit of, obviously the heats are drawn at random, and one of the benefits of being in the later heats is that you have that opportunity to watch, see what's happened in that first heat and know what you have to do. Obviously you already know about the qualifying spot from the first, but it's those fastest loser times. And Buja, that is an athlete who clearly paid attention and took his chance and is rewarded with a spot in the final.
But he just thundered in the last 30. Very, very impressively. And as a result, the rest in that heat have been eliminated.
And I think it's also just a reminder, the T11 and the T12 track event finals are some of the hardest, because you can't win in the heats, but only 4 of you can make it to that medal round. And so these athletes, they have to come in and bring their A game for every single round.
Well, Liam Malone was such a star for New Zealand in the 100 metres right through the teens, and now we've got another Malone who's tearing it up in the 100 metres, and I just can't wait to see Kashifali in the T13 as well. That's going to be a lot of fun, because I mean, in that Bislett Games there were 2 races he was in, and he went past the world record in both, but only one counts because one was a Norwegian able-bodied championship, so it doesn't go towards world para-athletics records, but the other one should do. But that was Jason Smith as well, because he ran 10:20, which was for a long time the second fastest Irish time, full stop, in all athletics, but it didn't count as the world record because it wasn't against para-athletes. But he was great in his day. He had lots of great days.
So I think at the moment, the official fastest Paralympian is Patricio Ferrara at 10:29. How many years do you think until we see a sub-10? Is it even possible?
You're the expert, don't you ask me.
Well, I think the exciting thing is we're starting to see different categories dip into it. So Patricio Ferreira is a T46. We're seeing blistering times in the men's lower leg prosthesis categories. We're seeing blistering times now in the T11, T12, T13 categories. It's almost a race to see who's going to do it first.
A race among races. In terms of the field events so far, great performances. Women's long jump gold to Asila Mirzayourova of Uzbekistan. That was a championship record. Gold in the women's shot put to Rawa Talili. Guerrero in the women's discus leading for now. 26.12 for Mexico. There's still a few throwers left in that. Diana Kremina of Latvia currently lying in second spot there. We still have 4 to go. Erika Castano, Nurkan Kurbanova of Uzbekistan, Sarah Mickey of Canada, and Saksi Kasana of India. And it takes a while for each of the competitors to be moved in and strapped in. They take all their throws at once. I remember when I was commentating on London 2012, the very first event of the week, first session was this, and it was the only event I was on. So for the first 30-40 minutes we were sat in this, we were watching all the athletes being strapped in and so on, and like we kept saying, the event is going to speed up, don't worry, and it certainly did, the week certainly did, but these are part of the procedures that are required all the way through. But a brilliant performance from Rosa Maria Guerrero, and it means that there's already been a giant killing in this.
Well, we come to it at the right time because Erika Castano, who's the reigning world champion, is going to be up throwing. So we have 4 athletes left to throw. Now that sounds like it's going to be a quite simple process, but it's never a simple process. It takes time. They have to be strapped in, they have to be happy, they have to have their practice throws, because in these seated events, any lifting of your backside or legs the judges see, they will call you as a foul. They are quite brutal with the judging. You know yourself, Steph, from events that you've been in, that you know, and from your husband and from other athletes, that they can be quite brutal, the judges, in how they actually do judge events.
They can be quite brutal, but that is because they have to be. They have to make sure that the event is fair for everyone, and you are correct. There is a very special judge in the seated throws events, which I believe is unofficially called the butt judge, because the rule as being a seated thrower is that you cannot use your lower body. And so actually we have a great view right now of the chairs that are designed for the athletes to throw on, and these chairs are heavily regulated. They have to be inspected, and there is always a judge that's going to be watching. I think anatomically it is the back of the legs and the ischial tuberosity, which must be in contact the whole time, otherwise it is ruled a foul.
Tuberosity, that's why you're here. We're learning things this morning, which is great. By the way, if you're wondering, Diana Kremina, if it's a name that's not familiar to you, well, she is the former Diana Dzite, the former Paralympic champion in the javelin in 2016 and the 3-time world champion. She's still the reigning javelin champion. She did win this in London 2017, but under a different name. Lives in Austria, if I remember. Based there for much of her career, but winning all her medals for Latvia.
While we're waiting on this, just we talked about we talked about the process for this. Just when you come into an event and championships, just talk us through the classification and how things happen, because it's not like you being classified one way particularly before and you're guaranteed to be that way when you come into a different championships.
Classification is the bedrock of Paralympic sport, because the reason we have so many is because we want to make sure that you have athletes with similar abilities competing against each other, and and it's a difficult process to do. And so typically before the championships, there will be 4 or 5 days which is dedicated to classifying athletes. So in some cases, it's athletes who have never been classified before. Sometimes it's athletes who have been classified within their country, but you still have to have an international classification, and that's important because it just ensures consistency within the process. And then there are also some classifications that have to be reviewed. For example, I'm a below knee amputee. I was classified once in 2006. It took literally 2 minutes. They confirmed I, in fact, did not have a right foot, and that was the end of it. I've never been classified again because it's not going to change. The foot's not going to grow back. That's easy. But you do have other classifications where things can change, and sometimes they are quite tricky and they're quite involved, and you have to really look at them over a period of time in terms of how they develop. So all that to say is at the start of every championships, you will have a classification process, and within that, people are paying attention because athletes sometimes change categories, and you want to know who you're going to be competing against, and sometimes we have changes in terms of the number of athletes in the events, which is why we'll have a qualification period.
Yeah, it's interesting because many people would just assume that someone stays as they are throughout the whole process. We talked about Salam Kalafashi there a moment ago, how he's changed from medium visual impairment to the least of the visual impairment. So there are tests which are done to actually show and have athletes have got to then prove that they are at a certain level, or they get reclassified into a separate category altogether. I know we've had changes in categories over the year as well. We brought in the T60s category, didn't we, going back 6 or 7 years, and that changed things as well and caused a few ructions. But these type of things have to happen. Now, I think we see later this evening, we'll see the T72s, which was formerly the race running category, using the I suppose running frames. So that's changed as well. So it does change each year, but they have to keep themselves up to a particular level, and the judges, they may get lambasted by people, but they're just doing their job in how they classify and keep the sport on a level peg.
Definitely, and I think it can be a little intimidating and daunting if you're new to parasport and you see all these numbers and these different classifications thrown at you, but we are here to simplify it and make it as easy as possible for you. But I think what you just described there is the reality of parasport. It still is actually quite new, and it's still evolving, and that's what makes it so exciting, and that's why you will come to these championships and you will see multiple world records being broken and championship records being broken, and it's because athletes themselves are getting better all the time, and technique is improving. They're able to transition from doing sport after work to becoming full-time professional athletes. That makes a difference, but equally more and more people around the world are learning about parasport and getting involved.
There is the one thing though that we've talked about before away from this, that some people just cannot be classified.
Yes, that is correct. Well, every classification involves a spectrum, and unfortunately the reality is that some people fall at opposite spectrums of the spectrum, and some people will fall outside of the spectrum. But just because you are not classifiable within athletics, there is still a whole range of other sports that you can do. But a great example of that has been the bringing in of frame running. Because if you were to compete in a wheelchair, one of the rules is that your feet can't actually touch the track. Otherwise, it is deemed not to be within the rules. But frame runners, they actually run sitting on what looks like a bicycle seat, and they use their legs to power it. And so that's quite an exciting example of finding a different way for people with different abilities to also compete and do an event that is very, very fast.
It's all very interesting, isn't it? There's so much we could delve into as we now look at the positions after 6 rounds thus far in the women's discus throw F55. Rosa Maria Guerrero of Mexico is currently in first position, 26.12. Diana Cremina, who we'll mention a moment ago, former Diana Dazidze, is in second position in 24.63. So we still have 4 athletes left to go.
Out of 12, which is a full third left of the competition, which started at 9 a.m. and 2.5 hours later, I would calculate we've still got about an hour and a quarter before we definitely know who the medalists are going to be.
Now, we actually just saw there a shot of the 4-minute clock. Now, that 4-minute clock is going to start as soon as this athlete is positioned and strapped in, and in those 4 minutes, that will be her warm-up.
As you see, briefly. New continental record for Nur Al Huda El Kaoui of Morocco, 21:31, and it is Continental Games season. So Rosa Guerrera, our leader for Mexico, and Erika Castano, the reigning world champion from 4 years ago in Dubai, have got the Pan Ams coming up in Santiago in November. The Asian Games coming up in Hangzhou, much delayed, like all of them. The African Games coming up as well. And we have had the European Games in the past couple of weeks around Krakow, which do not yet have a para element in them. It's at the first two of those, actually, in Baku and in Minsk. And they were a lot of fun to work on, I have to say. Certainly those editions got the crowds out. And you've got the chance to join the crowds for the evening sessions over the next 9 days. As I say, if you're in Europe, Paris is not that hard to get to, and the tickets are €10 a pop. Third time that France have staged in Lille in 2002. In that tremendous old football ground as it is now, because Lille moved home around 12, 13 years ago when they did the Ligue 1 and the Coupe de France double. And then we went to Lyon and the Stade de Rhône in 2013, and we had nice crowds there of around 10,000 per session at the Stade de Rhône, and it was equally hot there as it has been here for most of the time we've all been here today. So Erika Castano, the reigning world champion from Dubai in 2019, silver in the Pan Ams, behind Rosa Guerrera 4 years ago in Lima. Remember, there are practice throws among the set as well. So, her 4 minutes warm-up, the clock has run down. That's a warm-up throw, it's not being measured.
So from the time Castano was strapped into her chair, that 4 minute clock started. So she has a total of 4 minutes to get into the chair, get settled. And you can see it's quite a procedure. She has lots of strapping along her legs, and that is to ensure and make it clear to the judges that she is not lifting off that seat. She had her feet strapped in, she has her legs strapped in, and now she can take as many warm-up throws as she can until that clock runs down. And at the moment, it is at 30 seconds.
Now, if you're watching at home, you didn't see where that throw ended up. It actually went wide, so still got 23 seconds left on the clock. I think she can rattle out one more practice throw. Traditionally, you've been allowed 3. So the leading mark at the moment, 26:12 from Rosa Guerrera of Mexico. Erika Castano's lifetime best set this year, 24:96. There was a huge Grand Prix in Jalapa in eastern Mexico a few weeks ago. Obviously not Will and their tremendously successful Grand Prix. More world records in para-athletics in that track than anywhere else.
This is actually a real treat to get to see the process of an athlete as they prepare themselves. And the thing is, she has had to sit out there on that track from the start of the competition watching everyone. It is very, very difficult to keep yourself pumped up and primed and ready to go.
So this one's for real. Here she comes. Well, that's sailing out towards the first marker. She's been in excellent form this season. A little vamos from Erika Castano. So world gold 4 years ago in the discus, silver in 2017 in London in both the discus and the shot. Pan Am silver in the discus in 2019. So she needs 24.47 to get into the medals. And she's done it already. She's up into silver. 24.91. And it will be second place for her at the moment with 3 to go after her. Narkon Kobanova of Uzbekistan, Sarah Miki of Canada, and Saksi Kasana of India. Well, attempt 1 was good. The longest throws of Guerrera in first and Kremina in third were their last attempts. That is the 30-meter line she's throwing towards. Remember, there are multiple events here today, so they're not just making the markings out for this. If you're wondering why the first mark is well beyond what anybody's throwing in this, well beyond the world record, actually, of 27.80 for Marianne Bugenhagen from Beijing in 08. And that's better still. Lifetime best, 25.70. And she's only 42 centimeters away from the gold medal mark right now.
I mean, this is looking really good. When you throw a PB with your first throw, that really, really boosts your confidence. And we can see she is fired up and she is ready to go. And she's doing a really, really great job of just owning the moment and making this work for her. She looks free, she looks relaxed, some really positive self-talk. The discus she's throwing is 1 kilogram. And to throw it again, they're seated. They're not able to put that additional velocity onto the disc like we saw the men from the javelin do.
Well, she's already, with 2 of her attempts, had 2 of the 3 best throws competitively of her life, and this is the 3rd round. That's around the same mark again. Rosa Guerrera is really under pressure right now. And Dongfei Jia, because of that last throw, is now out of the medals. The reigning Paralympic champion from the last 2 Paralympic Games will not be on the podium today. Castano looks in fantastic form. That looks again around 25 meters. China, Dongfei Jia. Thank you. And the Colombian fans in the crowd here in Paris, joyous. 25.52 is the 2nd best throw of her life. The previous best one was in round 2. And she can, if she wishes here, have further practice throws because she's reached halfway in the competition. Well, I'll tell you what, Erika Castano's on form. And had things gone wrong with her 2nd round throw, that would have been her lifetime best. And there is the still reigning Paralympic champion, Dongfei Jia. But she's not in the top 3 today, and she has no further right of reply. Castano is really in a rhythm. Her 4th round attempt, again, looks really strong. Kremina's best was 24.63. To have her in the bronze medal position for now with 3 still to throw. Dongfei Jia, 24.47, reached her peak in round 4. It's only Lin Sitong of China who had her best throw in the opening round. We've seen quite a lot of that previously. Not today, though. She's really warming up Castano. 24.65.
I always think it must be really difficult for the other athletes watching on, because it's one thing if you have the opportunity to respond, but you don't. You just have to sit there and watch. And Castano is certainly putting on a display to the point where I feel like perhaps Guerrero is getting a little bit nervous. And actually, you can watch it on this throw here. The thing that is really impressive with her, just watching the flight of the discus, it's incredibly balanced, it's incredibly even. She's got a beautiful touch as she releases the discus.
Wax gone wide to the right, as she'd have seen it. But obviously it's being measured on the arc. But they've all been around the same range. They're within a meter of each other. She's shown brilliant consistency. This is F55, which is physically among the strongest of the seated athletes. The higher the last digit, the stronger the athlete is, basically. 25, 27.
This has been a fantastic series for Castano, and you can really see why she is a gifted discus thrower. She has incredibly long arms and incredibly long range. Length of levers make a huge difference in this event.
To retain her world title, she needs an extra 40 centimeters plus. Is that it? It's tentative. She might just have been dethroned, but she's looking good for a medal. It's not guaranteed yet. Lying in second spot, there's still 3 to go. Technically, Guerrero, our leader, is not yet guaranteed a medal. A wonderful set of marks for Erika Castano. She is no longer the world champion, but at best it will be silver for her. That was again out towards 25 meters. 24.68. Castano, at best, it is the silver with 3 to go. And Rosa Guerrero is in pole position in this women's F55 discus final. She's broken her lifetime best 3 times this morning. But Guerrero is our leader. And Castano, the world gold will not be around her neck this time, but at the moment she's still looking good for a spot on the podium. And that'll be a mixture of emotions. It's the longest throw of her life by a long way. What more can she do?
It's true. It always stings when you lose a world championship title, but she PB'd in the process, and she set 3 personal bests in the process, and that sets her up very nicely for Paris 2024 next year.
It's all the same being an excellent performance for Erika Castano. Second place for her, Diana Cremina, pushed down into the bronze medal position for now. And we've got 3 throwers remaining.
So the process will repeat again. Once the athlete has left the throwing circle, the process starts where you have to bring in the throwing frame of the next athlete. It's really important that they take time to properly secure the frame. That then means the athlete can get on and position themselves, get themselves ready. And as soon as the athlete transfers onto it, that is when the 4 minutes start once again for the athlete to settle in and take their warm-up throws. And then once that has finished, each athlete gets 1 minute for their 6 attempts.
So now, quick point for you. It is an F54 athlete who's coming up next. They've combined the categories together because of the number of entries and so on. And the woman who we're going to see next is the world record holder in F54. 20 meters 40 is her mark. Guerrero leading 26.12 for Mexico. Castano, the outgoing world champion, second, 25.70 with that lifetime best. And Diana Cremina in third currently for Latvia. Kurbanova, Seramiki and Sakshi Kisana are the 3 who are left to go.
It is good to highlight that in these field events and in some of the track events, it will be called an F55 discus throw, but we sometimes do have other categories who are then eligible to compete in that event.
And in the Paralympic Games, the F54s were left separate from the 55s and the other throwing events. She won silver, Kurbanova, in the F54 javelin and bronze in the shot put in Tokyo. And as I say, she is the world record holder in the F54. But thumbs up for Erika Castano, and that's good news. She's buoyant enough, despite the fact that it won't be a gold medal for her this time around.
It's nice to see they have the umbrellas up and out for the athletes. As I said, they spend a lot of time out there in these seated throws events because it takes time for every athlete to get settled. Good to see they're making an effort to keep them as comfortable as possible.
That was Diana, blonde Diana Denzite, formerly, now Diana Cremina, who was just whizzing through your shot. Anyway, we had the opening ceremony last night. Nice crowd for that, and a couple of DJ sets from Feder, who had his big #1 hit, debut hit in 2014, then a #3, and he's kind of like the French Rick Astley. His big hit was right at the start. Enjoy his set, I hope.
It was a great set, and I thought how fitting to get the championships started off with a dance party. He then ended with, it was the refrain, "Let's get down to business." I thought that was also quite fitting as well.
Yannick Noah's playing later in the week, which I'm really looking forward to. The Yannick Noah. At least I think it's the Yannick Noah, unless it's a band that call themselves.
Moment we have some break dancers which are entertaining the crowd.
The crowd are well entertained. So we've just got this one event that is left. The other field events, there were 3 other field events this morning. They have wrapped up, and you saw their conclusion. So Nurkan Kurbanova is being readied for Uzbekistan. Again, they're a nation strong in the power events, not just the field events, the throwing events here, but also the likes of powerlifting and able-bodied weightlifting. They've staged a major amount of events in that.
All of the chairs that are getting strapped in at the moment will have gone through quite an intensive review process. Typically when the chairs arrive at the start of the championships, they'll go to the technical committee who will go through them, measure them, make sure that everything is up to standard. For example, the chair itself cannot be higher than 75 centimeters. That is the maximum height, and that includes any cushioning that's on top of it. And it's important to have regulations like that, because then theoretically somebody could have brought a chair that's 2 meters tall. And obviously if you're throwing from a higher platform, you're going to get a farther distance. So all of these chairs have been examined, they've been measured, just to ensure, just like classification, the equipment that they're using keeps everybody on a level playing field. We saw Kurbanova there just finishing her warm-up as she's watching her chair get strapped in. She's keeping that throwing arm nice and loose. Just another example of the skill set that you have to compete. Training is very different from competition. Normally she won't go to training and sit for 2.5 hours waiting to throw.
Has there ever been a position where they think, why don't we have a universal chair for the same person?
That probably would make
for everyone.
That probably would make things easier. I think the difficulty is that everyone's body's different, and within this class you can have a variety of abilities. For example, some athletes have limb deficiencies, some will have legs that don't work, and so I think to create a universal chair, and you actually even think about there with the torso. Some athletes will have the ability to hold themselves, some won't, and twist into position. So while it would make life easier, I think you have to balance that with, we want to get the best performance possible out of every athlete, and the best usually results from something that's bespoke. What we haven't seen on the other chairs yet is a vertical bar, and vertical bars are allowed, and they're allowed to grab that bar or anywhere else on the chair to help balance themselves. But the one thing that officials will always look for is that bar must be rigid. It cannot have any sort of elasticity in it.
Would the bar not be in a position that it could almost lift your backside and buttocks off because you're pulling yourself, so it would actually be less beneficial for the athlete?
It depends. She might need it to, if some athletes will have the torso muscles to allow themselves to really lean back and twist. She may not have that ability. And so that way she can lean back and get that range that we saw Castana get, who gave us a masterclass in technique in this event. So she's able to do that while she holds onto the pole.
Well, the clock's ticking. We're down under 3 minutes. So it's practice throw time for Kurbanova. And once that clock gets down to 0, in just over 2.5 minutes time, it's 6 throws. And then we'll have 2 to go.
Later tonight, we've got 7 finals. Women's club throw, a couple of men's shot puts, men's long jump T11. We saw the women's one earlier on the track, the men's 100 T72. That's the new category for the race running, the frame running. Women's final in that as well, plus the men's 1500 meters T52 and the wheelchair racing. So there's a lot to look forward to tonight. That's underway at 6:30, 18:30 Central European summertime, 5:30 if you're in the UK and Ireland, Portugal.
Well,
Nice.
the weather has turned. We've had lovely weather over the past few days, and the grey skies have zoomed on in, and there's a little bit of rain out there now, and that makes things a bit more problematic for the athletes who are still to throw as well, because then the others who have had the luxury of having no water on any of the discuses are going to have to now dry it each time it comes back to make sure they've got a full grip with it.
I'm not sure if anyone noticed, there's probably a lot who saw yesterday the UK Championships in Manchester. It was a huge deluge, just as the men's and women's 100 metres finals were starting. And they still went ahead with the races, but they almost swam to the finish line.
But I think the difference in that, every single athlete in that final had the same conditions. Whereas in this case, you've had some athletes that have thrown in sunshine, and now we're having some athletes that potentially are having to deal with grip issues. And that is so important in something like the discus, where the way the discus leaves your hands has a huge effect on its flight. But she looks very composed. There's nothing she can do about it.
No, that's not. That's a really good point, because there's almost an argument to say, well, would you not wait until the weather conditions improve so that they throw under the same type of conditions? But unfortunately, when you're in a competition that you need to have everything run to a schedule, that you cannot do that type of thing.
I did notice that as the official handed the discus to her each time, he had a towel with him, and he was wiping it off.
Well, there you can see the rain coming down. It's not overly hard at the moment, but it's persistent, which won't help when the discus hits the ground and that grass is soaking up the rain, and all of the time it's coming back. They're having to try it off and try and get some sort of grip mechanism on it.
In terms of Guerrero's lead, by the way, at the moment, 26.12, and Kremina's third in 24.63. Kurbanova has to improve her world record here by, it's about 4.25 meters in order to get into the medals. And one of the later throws, Saxi Kasana, at the age of 15, is a major championship debutant. So of the last 3 throwers, and this is the first of those 3, Kurbanova, perhaps Sarah Mickey of Canada is the candidate with the strongest chance of breaking into the medals. We'll see. Kurbanova going to get her run going now. That's being measured. I should say her previous throw has come up in this system as 18 meters 23. So we can take that. If we take that as gospel, this is her second attempt.
Well, the clock technically had moved under a minute, and then it went back to a minute and stopped, but they did mark her previous throw as a season best, 18:23. Second throw now has been measured as well. And that has improved even further. So 18:34 for Kurbanova. Shot put bronze medalist in 2020 in Tokyo. Javelin silver as well at those Paralympic Games. So she's an all-round athlete when it comes to the throwing events. Shot put, javelin and the discus. So that throw number 3. She's currently sitting in 8th position. And the second of the 2 F54s who are in this F55 discus throw final. So Pooja of India, the other of the F54, she's in 9th position. Well, 18:34 is still the best as far as positions go for Kurbanova of Uzbekistan. So she's on to throw number 4. That one there coming in at 17:20. So slightly less, and we could almost speculate that perhaps it's the actual grip of it which is making it more difficult and she's not getting that distance, or it could just be a fatigue factor.
Yeah, I think the fatigue factor, as you say, definitely, as the athletes have been out for a while now. In terms of the grip, athletes aren't allowed to wear any sort of glove. They are allowed to use a substance that can perhaps help with that, maybe some chalk. I haven't seen any on her at the moment, but I think at this point she just needs to take a breath, just really collect herself, and keep trying to add on those centimeters to those throws.
Well, we've gone through 3. She's just getting herself repositioned and the discus wiped down. There's the pole that Steph Reed talked about that just helps with the balance. With a bit of tape around it to help with the grippers holding onto it as well. So as we move into throw number 4 for Nurkan Kurbanova of Uzbekistan. Gone to the days of the tape measure, the old tape measure where you'd have to bring it all the way back and make sure it was correct.
Although it was interesting, we did see on the long jump, they were using a tape measure again because the starting point changes with each athlete.
And we have seen the actual manual tape measurement come into these type of events as well when there's been an issue electronically, technically, with those digital markers. So it's always there in the background, isn't it? It's always there. It's never going to go out of fashion, let's say that. Well, 17.19 for Kurbanova's 4th throw. So no improvement, 18:34, but that second still the mark that she's trying to beat. So she knows about medaling in the shot put and javelin as she did in Tokyo. She's doing her utmost to try and medal in the discus throw here in Paris. Although at the moment it's hard to see that she's actually going to improve on that throw because she almost looked a little bit dumbfounded there as she looked across, I think, to her coach there as to wondering what was going on. How important is the coaching in these things?
I think once again, coaches can make a huge difference if you can see that there is just a habit that's creeping in. Sometimes all an athlete needs is just that cue to, just take the breath, remember those 3 things that we're working on. You can sometimes sense an athlete's getting frustrated. You really need to bring them back to that position of confidence.
Well, you heard the wail from Kurbanova then as she got rid of her penultimate throw.
See the officials there, they really have to be on their toes, not only to make sure they're not going to get hit by the discus, but also they want to get as accurate a measurement as possible.
Well, final throw coming in at 18:22, so there's no improvement. She's in 8th position, Kurbanova. 18:34 her best, that her second. So it's as you were at the top. It's Guerrero in first place, Castano of Colombia, who's in the silver medal position, and Dana Kremina of Latvia, who's currently in the bronze. So it's now time for Kurbanova to be unstrapped, moved out of the chair, and the process will begin all over again. We have 2 throwers left. Chair taken out, chair brought in, and that's the marker when we talk about the measuring. Used to be the old tape measure. It's now done electronically. Makes things so much simpler, but technology sometimes fails us and we have to go back old school. But today it's working absolutely fine. I'm sure I've just jinxed it. With 2 throwers remaining, let's hope not.
Well, there have been occasions where coaches have come and queried and thought, you know, by my eye, that doesn't look to be right. And all, as we know, it's equipment, and it all has to be calibrated. And the officials work very, very hard to do that all the time and make sure that everything is working as it is. But just in case, it's nice to have a metal tape measure on hand.
Well, there is the confirmation after the throws of those athletes. Guerrero in first position, Castano second, and Kremina in third position. Lifetime best, season best, area records. There's plenty to look forward to, and we've still got Canada's Sarah Mickey and Sakshi Kasana of India yet to throw at the end of this morning session. This is the only event left until we call it a day in the morning session. Then the evening session, which gets underway at 6:30 local time here in Paris. We'll have plenty to look forward to. 4 gold medals in the morning, 7 gold medals in the evening as we power our way through day 1.
We just had Kasana there in the background. She will be our last thrower to go as she waits for Sarah Mickey of Canada. And again, it really is a skill to be able to manage yourself at these competitions. She'll have been out there since 9 a.m. this morning, and currently it's almost noon, 3 hours later. And you have to think, as part of the preparation, I'm sure several of these athletes will have had to practice. What is it like having to come out onto a world stage and deliver my best after sitting for 3 hours?
But that's the thing, you have to come out. You all come out at the same time, and it's a mercy that it's actually been overcast this morning, because if it was 24 hours earlier, if it started on the Saturday, it was about 33, 34 Celsius and not a cloud in the sky, really intense heat, beaming sunshine at 9 a.m. yesterday, and they would have had to have been out in it for the 3 hours plus. Sarah Mickey from Redcliffe in Alberta, 5th in the discus in 2019 in Dubai at the last World Championships.
I think it tells us a little bit as well about the weather when the lights are on, because it is a lot darker today. The television pictures don't show that. It's always a bit brighter on the television, but it is a lot darker today here in the stadium than it has been, obviously, over the past few days.
It's not unwelcome, I'll tell you.
I think that is one of the great things, though, about athletes coming here and experiencing Paris and France as they're going to in a month's time, because there are some things that you just can't anticipate. I mean, yesterday was absolutely roasting, and I remember there was a lot of talk about heat prep when we were competing in Tokyo, and one of the things I knew it was going to be hot, but one of the things we did not anticipate was the glue literally melting off of my spike plate on my blade, which obviously is a huge issue because you can't compete with that without that on. Fortunately, we had a backup plan. My prosthetist thought of that and had that all organized. But there are some things you simply don't anticipate, as prepared as you are, but actually coming and experiencing, okay, what am I going to have to deal with when it's really hot? What about the rain? How's it going to affect my grip? How will that affect my throwing? It's an issue as well if you are a wheelchair racer and you're trying to get good grip on your wheels.
You mentioned about prosthesis there. It's a difference between countries as well financially, depending on what equipment you also are able to purchase and get your hands on, whether it comes to grants, whether it comes to government funding, whatever it may be. Countries have different ways of allocating funds, and athletes sometimes don't perhaps get equipment that may be as good as what other countries get. How do people deal with that?
I think, well, We talked a little bit earlier about the way that the chairs are regulated, these throwing chairs. They have maximum heights, the regulations around width and shape, and the reason for that is because they want to have as level a playing field as possible. They don't want equipment to be the reason why someone's winning, and you're right, the financing plays into that. And when you compete with the technology, it's always going to be a reality. It's not just about getting your body in the top physical shape. You have to have great equipment. The best Formula One driver in the world probably won't win if he's not driving in the right sports car.
Don't get me started on that.
So you're right, it does matter, and I don't know what the perfect solution is, but it is one of the reasons why we have lots of rules surrounding the equipment and what is allowed and what isn't.
When people first come into para sport and you've got all these regulations and you're trying to use different equipment and you're using prostheses, running prostheses for the first time, and people are using different types of wheelchairs, how do they adapt? How long does it take people to adapt to those particular things? Because it must be quite difficult when you're moving into a race situation or a throwing situation, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it can take a while. I remember every time I got fitted with a new prosthesis, my immediate response was, I hate it. And it wasn't because it was good or bad, it was just because it felt differently to me. And because it feels different, you tend not to like it. And eventually you get a relationship with your coaches and with your prosthetist, and they're able to say, why don't you just stick with that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll see how we go. And it's the same for a racing wheelchair. If you're sitting in a different position, you might feel the balance points a little bit differently. And so you've always got this awkward question of, okay, do I invest 6 months in this new piece of equipment that I hope will work out? Or do I stick with what I have? Because I only have so much time into the championships. And these are the sort of factors and questions that athletes and their coaching teams are having to deal with on a regular basis. And it's why it's so challenging. And it's why so many coaches love it, because it is this huge moving puzzle that pieces that maybe fit in 2 years ago now suddenly don't. And one of the best things that athletes and coaches can do at the championships is, while you're competing, have a look around at what everyone else is doing. Perhaps you can't afford to do the research yourself, but someone else has. And you can get a few clues as to what direction to go in.
It's an interesting point. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. We're just waiting for Sarah Mickey of Canada in the F55 women's discus throw final. She's the second last competitor to compete in these championships in this particular event. We're just waiting for her to get herself into position. There'll be a 4-minute countdown then where she gets some practice throws until she can get herself involved. You talk about the race chairs there and wheelchairs. Your husband, Brent Lakatos, who obviously competes for Canada, it's when you first see those particular athletes in those chairs, it looks very uncomfortable and it looks awkward, almost looking at it. Is it easy to adapt? Does Brent find it easy to adapt to those particular chairs when he first went into them?
I think what you will find is they are very awkward and they are very uncomfortable, and athletes generally will come out of them as soon as the race is done. They don't want to linger in them, and also it depends on your disability. So Brent, for example, can't feel his legs, so he will quite happily sit squashed on his legs. Probably isn't great for them, but he can't feel it. Whereas if you have an amputee athlete, they're sitting on those legs and they can feel it, and it is incredibly uncomfortable. And so again, you're towing that line between, well, do I want to be comfortable or do I want to be very aerodynamic, and do I want to go very fast? And these are the questions that we're constantly asking. And here we have a great shot of the variety of shapes that we have for the chairs. And again, along with the wheelchair racing chairs, these chairs have been designed bespoke for each athlete to maximize their physical capabilities and the way in which they want to throw.
Yeah, it's a wonderful insight into para sports in general, because not just para athletics, but I know in wheelchair rugby, for example, there are different types of actual chairs for a defender's chair, where you've got almost like a trolley at the front where you're trying to stop people, or you have the attacker's chairs where you've got a more aerodynamic, where you're trying to move, and because you can move quicker than other players, and there's a points classification system. So it becomes different in that particular sport as well. So all across para sports, it's always intriguing to see the different types of equipment which is used and how things have materialized over the years and changed through the mechanics of it to make it more aerodynamic and try and make yourself quicker. It's funny, you mentioned during the opening ceremony, we saw Marcel Hug, and so many people are never used to seeing Marcel Hug as a person who is with no helmet on, he would be able to roll down the street and no one would have a clue who he is. And all of a sudden, when he's got the helmet on, he becomes a different person. It's funny how equipment can almost amplify the athlete and make them into a different type of person, almost like Superman.
I agree, although I think Marcel Hughes' shoulders may give him away.
Possibly.
quite a broad chest, quite a large wingspan. But you're right, the equipment really does have to become a part of you. And sometimes I would describe it as, when you get a new leg, it's almost like building a relationship, not with a person, but with a leg. Because when you charge down that runway and you put huge amounts of force, I took off my artificial leg, you're putting between 7 to 9 times your body weight, and you are trusting that that leg is going to carry your weight. It's going to do what you expect it to do. And the truth is, sometimes you slip off the board. I've seen athletes jumping and the leg, because they're carbon fiber, they literally explode. And when that happens, it does knock your confidence a bit, and it takes time to be able to come back, and again, to be able to essentially put all of your trust back into that leg.
Just give us an idea how you got involved in parasports.
Well, I came from a sporting background, and my original goal in life was to be an international rugby superstar. I found rugby when I was 13 and loved it, but when I was 15, I was in a boating accident, which was when I lost part of my right leg. And I didn't know much about parasport, to be honest. Initially, I went back to playing rugby, but the issue I faced was a lot of the referees felt like my prosthetic leg was a hazard in the scrum, because it's metal, it's hard. A lot of girls didn't want to necessarily tackle me with it, which I thought was fantastic, but for obvious reasons it became an issue. And so I walked away from sport for a while, and I did still run for fun. I just didn't think I was that good. And then I finally got my first running blade. And initially it was just the joy of running. I just was so excited to be able to run again. But then I realized, my times are actually quite fast. And I had never really done athletics before, but on the rugby pitch, my asset, my biggest strength was always my speed. So someone said, well, let's see how fast you can still go. And that was the process. And it ended up with the decision of, okay, well, am I going to go to medical school, or am I going to carry on with this ridiculous dream to be a professional runner with one foot? And I have to say, I feel like I definitely made the right choice.
Brilliant. It's always good to hear the stories, and sometimes they're difficult for people, and they're strange how people get into those positions. But certain things happen in life sometimes for reasons, and you get to certain points and things just change. Funny you mentioned about the rugby there. I once played rugby when I was younger against a person who had a upper arm amputee, and he used to always fall on someone with his elbow, and it would hurt. Trust me, it would hurt.
I feel like Sarah Nicky of Canada, we just watched her do an excellent job of coordinating the officials to make sure.
She did. She did. It was almost like she was conducting the orchestra with everyone around her, making sure that they put her into the correct position, and she was happy with how things were, because it must be quite, if you're a young person who comes into this and you've never done it before, it must be quite daunting, because you're having to tell people and explain to people how you want to be strapped into that particular chair.
Well, again, it's the skill sets of being an athlete that you don't necessarily think about. And I had the exact same thought. She is conducting an orchestra, but she came in with a very specific idea of what she wanted in terms of chair position. And she was not going to start until she got that right, as she should do.
Right, so Canada have got a nice strong team here of 25. Sarah Mickey was involved in para ice hockey for quite a lot of the teens before moving into athletics. Lifetime best 23:47, which at the moment would put her up into 6th spot. Her season's best 21:64. So from Redcliffe, Alberta, I reckon it's about 4 a.m. there now. So if you've got up early or stayed up late for it, well done on that achievement. She's been in admin studies in Medicine Hat College in Alberta, in the city of Medicine Hat, who Kipling wrote about. The gas city. 5th in the discus in the last Worlds in 2019 in Dubai. We were due to have a 2021 championships in Kobe. That got bumped to last year, and then this year, and then next year. It's still penciled in for next year in May. 6th in the discus, Sarah was in the Paralympic Games in Tokyo, and 4th in the Pan Ams in Lima in 2019, aiming for Santiago in November she will be. Well, that's heading out towards 20 meters. That is not being measured. She's 24 years old. She's the 3rd youngest in the field, but, well, she still ordered those officials around quite impressively. Basically needs a lifetime best to get near the medals here, which she'll be well aware of.
She's still carrying on with her warm-up, but that was some impressive shoulder flexibility. We watch from Sarah. I think in the discus especially, it's this combination of power and range of motion. Because these athletes are seated, typically we would see discus throwers rotate in a circle, and she's trying to mimic that using just her torso.
You can see that rain coming down as well, even more strongly in the infield there, in our part of the stadium, which is under the roof.
Thank you.
There's no effect, and that means for the first time today, gonna have to get the towels out to dry it up, which is another complication that really none of us could have been expecting. There were thunderstorms actually forecasted last night, which never arrived. That's again swung out to around 20 meters, and because the rain has come down the past couple of minutes, it's now a sheer surface, the grass, so that discus is going to move a bit more once it hits the surface. Actually, I think it was Stockholm in the Diamond League very recently, in which they had a massive downpour as well, which complicated things tremendously, particularly for those involved in the discus. Remember Sandra Perkovic out having to stick the towels down in the throw circle, which made things very, very complicated there.
Everyone had their own technique. I think some were tucking them underneath their shirts, some brought them out in plastic bags. Sarah Mickey clearly saw the weather schedule and brought a towel with her.
See, at first there I thought you were mentioning throwing technique, but you were talking about drying technique. Okay. So 1992 she's gone out to. She's into 7th spot. No throw with the first attempt. She's the penultimate to go in this. So her season's best is 21.64. And it's almost cruel in a way that the conditions for 3 hours of the competition have been totally different to this. She's prepared herself in a different way, and then all of a sudden it just changes. Welcome to Europe. That's again come out towards 20 meters, and I mean, what can she do?
No.
She's halfway through her throws. You could just hear from her there that she's, and the wind has picked up a bit actually for the first time today. That's her best so far. We can just hear from what she's saying. It's become a bit uncomfortable for her. 20.66 is her best of the day, and she's got 3 throws to go. And she can take a little break. So we can feel a breeze where we are by the finish line, which is directly horizontally, diagonally across from where they are. They're at the 200-meter mark on the track. We're at the finish line. And this is almost unfair. But that's the French weather. Three throws to go. We go back to the days of Chantal Petitclerc, how big parasport has been in Canada. Well, with the naked eye, that might just be slightly further. She's given this a good belt. Even if she can get out towards a season's best, that'll get her up the rankings. She's 7th right now. Improving all the time. Took a bit to adjust because of that first round foul as the conditions are getting wetter. That's 21:02.
She's done really well. You can see with each throw, she's communicating with her coaches. She's talking to herself. She's progressing each time. And even though it must be frustrating with the weather, she has said thank you to every official who's handed her discus. She's really giving us a masterclass at how to keep your focus and keep your emotions intact.
So, Sarah's penultimate throw. Again, that's looking beyond 20 meters. Each one has improved since that first round no throw. She will match her mark from the previous Global Games in Tokyo 2 years ago if she improves by just around 30 centimeters from that 4th round attempt. Her 5th go, again beyond 20 meters, but not an improvement this time for the first time, 20:37. And her last attempt to follow in this F55 women's discus decider. A lot of the same names we'll be seeing in the shot and the javelin finals later in the week. It's finishing on Monday week, slightly unusually. We've got Bastille Day in the middle of all this. I've never been in France for that. Again, that's looking with the naked eye around 20 meters. She might have been a bit more satisfied with that. I think in the circumstances she's done as well as she could. If she matched her lifetime best, she'd have been in 6th anyway. She's 7th now. Obviously there are her own personal marks that she's aiming to hit. And that is her best of the morning. 21 meters 14, and Sarah Mickey 7th at best for Canada.
It's a really great example that shows how you can work your way through a field event, any field event. You have 6 attempts. The idea is to use each one and maximize it. And I think, as you said, she made the best she could of what perhaps was a difficult situation. 1, being one of the last athletes to throw after sitting for so long, and 2, unfortunately having to deal with some difficult weather circumstances that athletes previously wouldn't have experienced.
You remember that night in London at the World Championships in 2017 when it just absolutely, the heavens opened and it had been nice weather all week, and then it just completely lashed down for one of the 100-meter finals particularly.
But that's the reality of an outdoor sport. You know, it's easy when it's raining to want to go in and train indoors and stay lovely and dry, but the reality is you might end up at a championship moment and you have to produce, and you need to know what that's like.
And it's only light rain here. The weather's only changed slightly, but it's just a complete contrast with what we've seen prior to it for the previous 3 hours. So that's the fate and the cards that Sarah Mickey have been dealt, and we've got one competitor to go for what is definitively a championship debut. I think they've dug out the 12-inch of Donna Summer, by the way. I swear they've been playing I Feel Love for the last 10 minutes. So, change of chair for the final change of thrower for Sakshi Kasana of India, who is 16 years old, and it is her first major championship. The last Asian Para Games held in at 2018 in Jakarta. So this is the situation with one thrower to go. And it's Rosa Maria Guerrero who's leading, 26 meters 12. Erica Castano of Colombia in second, 25.70. Lifetime best for her. And Diana Kremina of Latvia in the bronze medal position, 24.63. The Paralympic champion, Dong Fei-Jia, missing out in fourth spot. Sarah Mickey, top of page 2, 21.14 with her last attempt. So Sakshi Kasana, the last to go for India. I've just realised I've done what I just keep doing when it goes into, when you're looking at a date from the 20th century. I've taken 10 years away. I've taken 10 years off her. She's 26, not 16. But still, it is a global championship debut for her all the same.
It's a big deal to debut at your first World Championships, and it's interesting because every World Championship experience is different depending on where you are in your career. So my first champs was great. You come out, you're naive, you're fearless, you have nothing to lose, there's not as many expectations. But then as you carry on your career, the situation changes. Yes, you might now be the one to beat, and that comes both with privilege but also with a bit of pressure. Here is a fantastic look at all the different chairs, different designs, different attachments, different colors. And as we said, one of the main rules about the chairs is that there can be no moving parts on it, no joints that move, nothing elastic, and we can see very clearly there, they are all the same height. Every chair has to be a maximum of 75 centimeters, and that includes any sort of cushioning that may be on the chair, and that's for the seat. You are allowed to have other bars that help with things like balance, like a backrest, for example, and the rule is that you are allowed to touch any part of your chair that you want to in order to help you balance yourself and to give you the best possible throw using all of the muscles and all of the technique that you can use.
There's some well-worn chairs there, aren't there? There's a few of them that have been around longer than I've been alive.
Well, the thing is, when you find something that works and you like it, you don't want to change it. It's interesting too, you'll see a lot of them have wheels. They're heavy, they are not easy to move.
Gives real meaning to the word process, doesn't it? Because you have to go through the process every single time that you get into these positions. It's even for the athletes when they train. Because even when they train, they have to make sure that they're correctly, anchored down and they're in the right position. Because if they're throwing incorrectly in training, then they're going to do the same thing when it comes to an actual throwing event.
Definitely, it takes a lot of composure and a lot of precision. Because, as you say, this equipment becomes part of your body, and if it doesn't feel right, then you're not going to throw in the way that you want to. I think we also need to give Definitely, it takes a lot of composure and a lot of precision because, as you say, this equipment becomes part of your body, and if it doesn't feel right, then you're not going to throw in the way that you want to. I think we also need to give...
Does the United States have with 45, Brazil have a team of 54. And at the last Asian Para Games, they won a whopping 72 medals, 15 across all sports. Which is a great build-up ahead of Hangzhou's Asian Para Games later on this year in October. So those are the targets for her. So 21:41 is her lifetime best, which would get her into 6th spot if she's able to match that. She was not in the Asian Para Games team last time out because of the nature of para sport and para athletes, and frankly people can qualify as para athletes at different times in their life depending what's happened. But for her, this is her major championship debut. We're not quite ready to declare the top 3 just yet, but Rosa Guerrero will be on the podium of Mexico. Erica Castano of Colombia will be as well. Diana Cremina is not guaranteed at this point in time.
You can see there on the countdown clock, she has 21 seconds left to complete her warm-up throws, and she's quite keen to get one more in.
I'll tell you, that last one ended up not very far away from 25 meters. Although that was probably with a bounce. Well, this would be a nice time for a lifetime best. It could make it a thrilling end to this women's discus F55, which started exactly 3.5 hours ago. So we've brought you every medal that's been claimed in the field so far. And remember, 7 finals tonight, 3 in the track, 4 in the field, including the men's T11 long jump final. That was an impressively high throw. That's a skill in itself. It's gone out a nice match. So 21:41 is a lifetime best set this year. Put a good amount of effort into that. So 21:41. A mark to remember. She's come very close to that. She's gone beyond it. Lifetime best, 21:73. She goes into 6th position, and she's within 3 meters of a medal.
What a way to start off your World Championship career. She has waited patiently, watching everyone else go before her, and she has come out and started with a bang. Now, it's not the smoothest technique that we've seen all day, but she certainly gets a lot of power out of it. And as my coach would always say, it does not need to be pretty, it just needs to go far.
Well, there's a bit of conjecture there. I can see the judges in the background. I think there's a bit of an issue. They want something tightened up around her right-hand side. And they were looking at something there that wasn't actually what they wanted, whether it was a bit of potential lifting or whether it was something that wasn't strapped in correctly.
Yeah, a bit of readjusting going there. And you can see a lot of brown tape and probably a bit of gaffer tape as well.
Now, the strapping is not a requirement for the chairs, but the judges do recommend it because they, as you say, they do really want to see that seating position is maintained throughout the throw.
Well, even if she doesn't improve on that for the remainder of the competition, her first throw is a lifetime best. You can never ask any more than that. One lifetime best is great. How many more can she produce? Looks to be in and around the same mark. I should also say, 4 of the top 7 have produced lifetime best today. Castano in 2nd, Alamari in 5th, Kasana now in 6th, and El Kaoui with the African record in 7th. It's beyond 20 metres again, 20.22, and Kasana stays in 6th spot for India.
You just see her rehearsing her next jump there. Every athlete will have their own process and their own system. I'm really liking this throw catch that she does. Very, very coordinated.
Nice amount of strength there. One of the officials had to skip out of the way, which I think is something else that happened in Stockholm with the javelin a few days ago. She put a tremendous amount into her first attempt. Visually, she doesn't seem very satisfied with that one, but I think she's given that a good whirl. It's certainly beyond 20 metres again. (21.68). There's a bit of anguish there.
You can see in her head she has a very specific number in terms of what she thinks she's capable of.
She can take a break, obviously, midway through her throws.
That was Sakshi's coach, you just saw on screen there a couple of moments ago. I've seen him, he's actually staying at the same hotel as myself, and he's been there encouraging the athletes. And he's certainly got an athlete on his hands here, Sakshi Kasana.
Obviously, the Asian Para Games are coming up later this year in Hangzhou, and she'd be a nice candidate for that. She's the 3rd best Asian competitor of the field here, which I know it's always down in the day, but it's indicative anyway that she may have a good chance there. Everything's gone beyond 20 metres so far. As has this, 20 metres, 61. Kasana leading, 21.73. Or that her leading attempt, I should say, for 6th spot. She would only be the 2nd competitor of the field to have her best attempt right at the start. She's taken some liquid on, taken a bit of a breather. That's gone very close to going wide. And that will be, I think, a no throw, and it's not. And I wouldn't mind, but that went a very good distance. You just look to the left as it goes there. Sailed out beyond the left-hand side of the quadrant, but distance-wise, sorry to say, I think that might have been the longest. Lots of power, but not as much control in that, and that's a real pity from her point of view.
I think she's in the position now, though. I mean, she got that personal best with her first attempt, and once you've done that, you then have the freedom to really just go for it on your final jump. She has nothing to lose. She can only improve.
You won't get a lifetime best every time you compete. That's always important to remember. She's done that today. And that was sailing out towards the left again, but it does register a mark. I think she's got the white flag for it. Yes, just inside. So she's got a chance of improving on that 21.73. Good chance that's beyond her previous lifetime best going into this competition set earlier in the year. 21.47. She's got a bit to be happy about. Her first attempt was a best 21.73. So that wraps up the competition. And Rosa Guerrero, the Pan Am champion, the Paralympic bronze medalist, has taken the gold here for Mexico. Erica Castano has been dethroned as world champion. Silver for her. And Diana Kremina of Latvia always weighs in the medals. And she's done so here. And this is not her strongest event, but she picks up bronze in the discus. Sakshi Kasana, certainly she looks like someone who is expecting a little bit better, but it's still a lifetime best.
I think it's hard when you're coming to your first championships. You want everything, but I think what that shows is that perhaps she has been throwing farther in training.
So Diana Kremina gets the bronze for Latvia. Her final round attempt, having gone out to 24.55 in the opening round, 24.63. Her last attempt, Erica Castano, going out to 25 meters 70 with her second round throw, lifetime best. The world champion from 4 years ago gets the silver here, and Rosa Guerrero of Mexico gets the gold, and her final attempt was the best, 26 meters, 0.12. And that is the world championship title for the Pan Am champion. Rosa Guerrero takes the gold for Mexico, 26 meters 12. Erica Castano, the outgoing world champion for Colombia, the silver, 25.70, a new lifetime best. And Diana Kremina of Latvia with the bronze, 24.63. And the Paralympic champion, Dong Feijia, fourth for China.
So the morning session is finished. We'll have plenty to look forward to a little later on. It was a bit drizzly in the morning. The sun wasn't shining as brightly as it has the past few days, but the athletes still put in some absolutely phenomenal performances. Paris maybe looking sunny, but certainly no gloom when it comes to those on the track and the field.
Rosa Guerrero taking gold in that women's discus F55 seated throws. The Pan Am champion is now the world champion for Mexico, with Erica Castano having taken this title 4 years ago in Dubai, silver for Colombia, and Diana Kremina the bronze for Latvia. Women's long jump T11, complete visual impairment, and what a triumph. A new championship record for the Paralympic silver medalist Asila Mirzayarova of Uzbekistan, Lorena Salvatini the silver for Brazil, and Xu Guhao the bronze for China, the former world champion.
Women's shot put F41, no doubt here as to who was going to be there or thereabouts. Roa Talili the 4-time world champion in discus, as well as 2-time Paralympic champion in discus as well. She adds to her haul of gold medals in the shot put as well. She picks up the gold there. Men's javelin throw F38. Jose Lemos with a new championship record of 58.14. Opted not to actually throw in a couple of his turns because he knew he had it well and truly wrapped up. Lukimi of Colombia making it a season best, 1-2 for Colombia. And Bellier, a season best, picking up the bronze for Ukraine.
In the women's 1500 metres T11, 2 heats in this, and Mary and Njoroge of Kenya, the fastest in heat 1, 4:54.86, qualifying for the final, along with Luzan Kutse of South Africa and Margarita Fandez of Chile. Nancy Koech with victory in heat 2 of the women's 1500 metres, 5:15 dead. Joanna Mazur and Rakshita Raju of Poland and India respectively, also qualifying for the final.
So the men's 100 metres T12, the opening heat, Noah Malone with a championship record of 10.50. Zachary Shaw and Jaco Smit also qualifying from the opening heat with lifetime bests. And with no Salam Kashafali competing in the T12 anymore, it's well and truly wide open. Moonsef Buja with a lifetime best for him qualifying in what was a slower heat than the first, but Buja will go through to the final.
So in the evening session, we've got 7 finals to be decided, 3 in the track and 4 in the field. That will be underway in around 6 hours' time. It's 6:30, 18:30 Central European Summer Time, French time. And the couple of thousand who've been here this morning have been well entertained. Here's who's won what so far, with goals for Colombia, Uzbekistan and Tunisia, and one on the way for Mexico. Also, Brazil, China and Ukraine have also got themselves into the podium positions. Those will be presented in the next few hours.
Message to all the people who are still in the stand.
So the morning session is over. The first 4 medals have been collected, all in the field. In the evening session, we'll have medals in both the field and on the track. 7 in total. 11 all up on day 1. Plenty to look forward to at 6:30 local time. From myself, Will Tolson-Tollett, Will Downing and Steph Reed. Until then, it is bye for now.